Hey everybody, it's Kalen Allen here, and I'm so excited because today we're going to do a very special drag transformation, and I brought in the one and the only, the incomparable Monique Heart.
Hello,
darling!
What I'm doing, children, is mapping out his eye space, and then I'm going to do his brow. Actually, when I got on Drag Race, I was actually thinking about quitting, to be perfectly honest. I was over drag. And my friend said, just put a tape down. And I thank God that I was like, you know what, whatever. It'll be my last hurrah. And I did, and I'm so grateful that I did.
I think that goes the same way with like going viral, you know? Because it's like when I did the food videos, a lot of people were expecting that just to be it.
Right.
But anybody that knew me knew that was not going to be the case, just because of how I work and what the overall dream was. That it went beyond the videos, you know? And then I was able to build a career from it and sustain. And I think even now, I'm always trying to figure out what's next.
Okay, give me your trimmer.
Oh, I do? Okay. This brow is sickening.
She's coming in.
She is.
I'm gonna pull this one a little bit more, but yeah, she's right there. Okay.
You know, also growing up in Kansas City, when it came to knowing about, you know, resources for LGBTQ plus youth, it's my first introduction probably was It Gets Better.
Really?
I think that was probably the first thing that I ever knew about, you know?
Wow.
And I think it's something that it's a universal statement that we all use in general.
It really does.
You know?
I mean, not does, but it really is a statement that we use.
Yeah, and a concept, especially as youth, is we hear it all the time and not necessarily knowing, well, okay, you say that because it did for you, but it may not do that for me. You know, and I think it's understanding and trusting that everybody's journey is different.
That is very
And
true.
also, you have to realize, what does better mean to you?
Yeah.
Your better is not going to look like somebody else's better.
Very true.
You know? But I think the work that they do is absolutely amazing, because and I always love the fact that the focus is on youth, you know, because I think those are the pivotal moments and the deciding moments of who we become as adults.
Very true.
And having that support system and knowing that there's a place where you can go in and feel loved unconditionally and supported and have resources given to you is something that not a lot of people afford to, you know, especially when I think about like growing up in Kansas City, you know?
Yeah, because I think as a queer person, I remember when I came out thinking, like, if I was 12, where would I go? Like, who do you talk to? How do you... So I think it is so necessary.
Day 2 of It Gets Better, a digital pride experience, and I'm back as Majestic 49, you know, or, you know, Kalen Allen in drag, whatever you want to call me. But yesterday, Monique Heart started preparing me for my drag debut, and we're going to show you the reveal today. Listen, we've got so much exciting stuff ahead for you today, but before we get started, we want to once again thank our sponsors for making all of this possible. Presenting sponsors American Eagle and Lexus, and event sponsor Converse. We cannot do this without you. No, we could not. Also, just a reminder, we're here to celebrate It Gets Better. If you want to show them some love, like and share their posts, donate if you can, or just get your friends to watch the live stream now. It's a pride party. Let's celebrate together. Monique, I'm snatched. It's sickening.
Very vaginal.
It's giving Hollywood glamour realness. Well, thank y'all.
Pride Month is a month that we get to embrace who we are and uplift our culture, uplift our diversity, and uplift our strengths.
I see pride as this rebellious way of loving and accepting ourselves and our families and our bodies and our identities.
It's a way to draw focus to the community in a very positive and uplifting way. The It Gets Better Project, we are there to support kids while they're coming out or even before they know they're entering a coming out process. It's a way to show kids that there are people out there to support them no matter what they're going through. American Eagle was one of the first major brands that I had the opportunity to work with. I often kind of jokingly refer to it as the angel that fell out of the sky into our laps. You know, American Eagle reached out to us through our info box.
We were looking for a partner to focus on in the LGBTQ community. We were really inspired by their uplifting and empowering messaging and how they really speak to young people about inclusivity and equality.
We celebrate the power of young people and the optimism of youth. And our brand is all about inclusivity and helping people feel better about themselves as they go through the process of adolescence and growing up.
Over the last 5 years, we've done some amazing work together.
Year one, our campaign generated several $100,000 for the organization, which even at that time, it was the single largest grant that we had received. American Eagle's total combined support for the organization exceeds $1.8 million.
In 2018, we were able to march with American Eagle at Mexico City's Pride. We had like a huge group of American Eagle's queer and allies employees at Mexico City's Pride, and we marched together.
In 2019, it was the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, and It Gets Better and American Eagle partnered in a series of events in New York City. It was spectacular, it was joyful, it was fun. We had great kind of representation of over 19 countries, from India to Brazil to Colombia, that marched during Pride.
We were working on a global grant-making program to support all of our global affiliates around the world. And today that program is about 19 countries strong. We really had no idea of how large this relationship would become and how critical it would become to the future of the It Gets Better project.
Even as an organization ourselves, as a nonprofit, we do see ourselves more as a platform for other people's voices, whether it's political, whether it's a social movement. We'd rather carry the mic. I think it's not really about what It Gets Better has to say, but rather what our voices in our community have to say.
Our education program, It Gets Better EDU, was really born out of the community. As an organization, we were telling stories. We would get emails from parents, from teachers, from community leaders who had come onto our website or who had discovered us on social media, who had seen a video on YouTube, and they say, I love this story. I love to introduce it to my classroom, but I don't know how to start the conversation. I don't know how to build the bridge. The stars kind of aligned when American Eagle's support came in because we had the funds, we had the ability. So then we started creating what we call EDU guides or edu guides that teach educators and community leaders how to introduce all of the wonderful stories into classroom settings. So there's a number of different components to the work of It Gets Better EDU, but one of them is Youth Voices.
Youth Voices is our Youth Ambassador program, and it's one of the programs that was made possible from American Eagle funding, and we have identified some of the coolest young queer people that I have ever met.
Hi, I'm Zach, and I'm from the It Gets Better project.
Hello, my name is Hammy Hamilton.
I and the other Youth Voices got this opportunity to go live from American Eagle's Instagram accounts.
I was very nervous that day, and I was just in awe that I was even right there because I went from walking into the store to being on their Instagram.
We go live and got 15 to 20 minutes to share our story, to share our passions.
It was like such a surreal moment. I knew I was there for a reason, to represent kids like me. I will remember that moment for the rest of my life.
In 2021, our partnership is expanding yet again. And there are some incredible opportunities that we get to explore that the entire team is super excited about.
American Eagle and Aerie are going to be making a flat donation. Our donation won't be tied to product sales this year. However, from June 11th to the 13th, we're going to be hosting a Real Rewards campaign, which is our loyalty program, and donating $1 for every Real Rewards transaction up to $50,000. And finally, we're going to be doing store windows in Soho in New York City and on our LED billboards in Times Square in Los Angeles. So many, many different ways of getting the messaging out about our partnership together and uplifting LGBTQ youth.
One of the things I love about working for American Eagle is that we do have a great sense of corporate responsibility to trying to make this a better world. I think it's something we take pride in, something that we challenge ourselves to do even better each year and over time.
What I want other youth out there to know is that there is beauty in diversity, that there is strength in our diversity, and we should embrace our diversity.
Queer youth are working to a better future for not only queer teens, but for people of color, not only for humans, but for Mother Earth.
It's been a great 5 years partnering with the It Gets Better project, and I look forward to many more years working with them. I just feel like we have so much alignment between what we stand for and what It Gets Better stands for. And, you know, I have to say, it's in their name, but it really does get better.
Hey there, I'm Zachary Quinto. I am an actor and a producer, and I was asked to give a little piece of advice to young LGBTQ plus people in honor of Pride Month and the anniversary of the It Gets Better campaign. So first of all, it gets better. That I can tell you 100% from my own experience. And second of all, if I could give any small piece of advice, it would be to create a strong, chosen family, to build a network of friends and confidants and people who can relate to you, who can support you, and who can identify with you. There is a unique bond that exists among members of the LGBTQ plus community, and it's a bond that can be incredibly powerful. So whether you're celebrating your triumphs or you're looking for comfort in challenging times, having a chosen family to whom you can turn and on whom you can rely is such an important aspect of the experience as you step into your authentic self and bring your light into the world where it is so desperately needed. Sending all the best to my community, wishing you a happy Pride, stay safe, and
at my first Pride, I was straight, which is not the case anymore, obviously. And I remember one of my friends who had already come out as LGBTQ+, inviting me to Pride, and I really wanted to make sure that as a straight person, I was respectful and did everything, and so I Googled all these phrases about Pride, and I learned a lot about Pride, and I remember making a sign that said, straight but not narrow, and then not going. So that was a very disappointing first Pride, but it did get better, as you say.
One of my first iconic Pride memories is actually being in the parade. I come from radio, 97.1 FM, AMP radio, and before I was on air, I was a street teamer, and we'd hand out stickers and stuff. So every year for Pride, we drove our DJ truck in the parade. It would open up and someone would be on the turntables, all that, and others would just walk along and pass out t-shirts and rainbow beads, and I would be behind the wheel. And I did that for like 3 years straight, and it was so cool to just cruise down Santa Monica Boulevard and see all these beautiful faces celebrating their identities.
My first Pride was actually not in the US, it was in Paris, France. So this was before I had come out as female to male trans, and so I didn't really know what, identity or like my gender or sexuality. I was kind of just like in this phase of figuring it all out. But we were in France in June, and so we saw the signs for the parade, and we decided as a family, so my mom, dad, sister, and I would go and check it out. And so we went, and there was just hundreds of thousands of people there just decked out head to toe in rainbow, and I really felt like wow, like I had no idea that there were so many other people like me not in the US. You know, I think going to Pride internationally is a really fun and interesting experience because you don't get a lot of representation about queer people outside of the country that you live in. And so it was really a big moment for me to see, you know, these hundreds of thousands of queer people in a country that I don't live in.
So my first Pride was probably 2014, 2015, and I was interning at NBC Universal for their like Out at NBC Universal affinity group that they had. And I helped check people in for the Pride Parade so that everyone could be walking with NBC Universal. And it was really cool. I felt like it was kind of a nice little conduit into this sort of parade because I didn't want to go by myself. And it was nice because I got to meet a lot of other queer folks there, and we got to walk together, which was really special. And of course, then there was the celebratory drinking and dancing after, which was awesome.
My first Pride was June 2020. It was a crazy year because at the time I was also running for school board, and Pride was digital, and I was participating in Pride. And so the whole month of June was really filled with risk, joy, reward, chaos, but it was great. It was so awesome to be able to stream the digital Pride live stream from my bedroom, from my living room, just from the comfort of my own home, which was really comforting, in the midst of what seemed like never-ending pandemic.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second annual It Gets Better, a Digital Pride Experience. My name is Vincenzo Dimino, and I'm a New York City-based fashion photographer, and I'm currently the assistant photo editor at InStyle magazine. I'm so thrilled to be working with It Gets Better this year in celebration of Pride. It Gets Better is such an amazing organization which promotes a world where all LGBTQ plus youth is able to live freely and equally. We're sitting here today with an amazing designer, someone who I look up to so much and has been so inspiring to me. He's dressed so many stars, from Lady Gaga to Cardi B. Everyone, please welcome Christian Cowan.
Hello, I'm Christian Cowan. I'm a fashion designer. I do super glittery and fab stuff, and we're based in New York City. And I'm just so excited to be here today talking with you and for It Gets Better, which obviously is such an amazing organization that is so well known. So it is an honor to be here. Thanks for having me. But I just wanted to jump in, I guess, immediately in terms of I guess a good place to start is the work we've done together. I mean, you've worked on many of my shows, you've created such incredible imagery for us so many times, which I love so much. Tell me a bit about what's it like working in Fashion Week and all of that jazz.
I mean, like you said, we worked on many different shows, and it's always such an amazing, an exciting process. Whether I'm shooting behind the scenes content while everyone's getting ready, or right before the models are about to walk on the runway and show your beautiful designs, or if I'm shooting front row, it's always just a great experience just creating work with all these beautiful and talented people. I think that one project that we worked on together that has been the most exciting was the lookbook that we shot during your fall-winter 2020 collection, backstage, obviously. But it was just great putting together a whole set and photographing all the looks and it was such a great time. Yeah.
I'm always amazed by how good of a job you do, because it's like, it's so stressful backstage. This like normally on a photo studio, like, you know, you'd be calling the shots. It would be all up to you. And you feel so bad at my shows when it's like everyone's being like pulled like every direction. It's very impressive that you create what you do.
Thank you. And it was a very different like scenario than what it usually is. Like usually in a studio we have control and we're just like thinking together and creatively and just trying to make the best out of it. And we still did that, but it was like very different and very busy, but we still made it happen. So
well done.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start asking you a few questions. As a celebrity designer, you've dressed many different people, from Lil Nas X, MJ Rodriguez, Laverne Cox, and Got Mick. How does working with members of the LGBTQ plus community influence your work?
I mean, it's influenced my work kind of since before day one, I would even say. Like, as a queer kid in the countryside in England growing up, like I definitely didn't feel like I fitted in. And then when I started to like basically skip school and go up to the city in London, I would like hang out with, like in queer spaces in London with drag queens and everything else. And it was just such a eye-opening experience where I felt at home for the first time. So I think like my work has always come from that place. It's always come from that feeling of being like accepted and included in this like safe space. So it's really influenced us in so many ways, and I find it very odd when fashion brands don't quite acknowledge like the queer community in the way they should, because it's like nightlife and fashion and the queer community all share a home, really. Like we all overlap so much. Whether designers acknowledge it or not, they're being inspired all the time by so many different people, whether it's drag queens or performers they see in the club. So it's like odd to then not give those people the platform within their own brand.
Yeah.
But I know that you've worked with many like queer icons like MJ Rodriguez and Kim Petras and like Susan Bartsch. I'm sure so many others that I'm not remembering on the spot. But just like, what's it like to have worked with such epic talent, and like how do these queer icons influence your work?
I mean, it's always such a great time working with these different types of people. We share so much, and it's so inspiring to me that I'm able to create like such beautiful work with them and give them the exposure, and they're giving me exposure as well. It's like always a collaboration, and we're elevating each other while working together, and that's just so beautiful to me. And yeah,
I mean, it's like really, I think, why the queer agenda has been so successful, especially in the Western world, in terms of like we're a really amazing community. Like we really support each other, and so like. Yeah, I think that's such like a key part. And definitely my brand success as well has been like, we're true to our community, but our community are true to us. Like, it's great.
Yes. So going off of that you're so inclusive and you include so many people in your campaigns. You've had Marc Jacobs, Terry Quinlivan, which I love, and Boeing Yang. So how do you pick who's going to be in the next Christian Cowan campaign or the next Christian Cowan show? Like,
I mean, I'm totally honored that all those people have like been in my projects. Like that's so exciting, and I can't believe it. But I guess I always want my brand to be like a microcosm of like pop culture and what's going on in the moment. So I never want it to just be fashion models and fashion people. Like I want it to be different talent that we think is incredible, that aligns with our message of just like be who you are and be proud of it and love everyone. So it's always that. I mean, it's hard. Like what I like about the brands, it's never boring. Like you don't know whether we're going to work with like Heidi Klum or whether we're going to work with Lil Nas X. Like it's always like some like random new person. So I think it keeps it fresh and exciting, I hope.
That's awesome. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so growing up in the LGBTQ plus community can be really hard, and some people have really tough times. So what advice can you give to those who are struggling to find their way, whether it's a career advice or just in general, just life advice?
Oh, I mean, it's such a big question that there could be like a whole conversation around just this one question. But I'd say like, for like really young people who are just kind of like coming to terms with their own identity and aren't sure how to mesh with their outside world, and maybe they're in an area where it doesn't feel as accepted, I would say that you have to exercise kind of self-preservation and kind of in a way be a little bit selfish about looking after yourself in the beginning, because when you're in an environment that's not accepting of you, or like, you know, you're just waiting for that time where you can like go somewhere else and be more accepted, which I know so many of us do when we move to the city. I think you've got to look after yourself and like just put yourself first a bit more than you normally would to make sure you're safe and kind of mentally sound. And then professionally, I would say it's different per industry, and we're so lucky that the fashion industry that we're in is such an inherently kind of queer space, and we're so accepted. But I would just definitely say that get ready to just work endlessly and try to make sure that no one takes advantage of you, but also be aware that in the beginning you're going to have to do a lot of work for less than what you're worth, but you've got to prove it, I guess, for a while. And then get that stage. I don't know if that was clear enough, but that's my rough.
No, really clear. That's good. Okay, moving on. We know that representation in fashion is definitely like getting a little better. There's been a lot of changes the past few years, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot more that needs to happen. So what do you think are the areas where we're exceeding in that and where we're not? And what have you done to contribute to that?
So I think the problem in general with fashion is people always think like they see a few things happening in America and they think that like fashion's becoming so much better in terms of diversity and inclusion. But I think people forget to look at it in like a global perspective. Like even if you like start to look at Milan and stuff, it's drastically worse. So like never mind further afield and like the less major kind of fashion destinations. I do think American fashion, and I think British fashion maybe as well, more so than Parisian and Italian, has become way more accepting and like has really taken more strides to kind of have the inclusivity that we want to see, like, and not just in the visible positions, like also in like the teams and like the glam teams and like everything. It should never just be like optics and then not actually showing it in your infrastructure. So I think there's been change there, but I mean there's a long way to go, and I think we're still in this groove of like tokenizing diversity in many ways. So like you'll see like 3 plus size girls who get like every single plus size job, and they're kind of still being like kept in this plus size job category, where it's like we shouldn't be seeing that. We should be seeing like loads of different women and men and everyone else like getting loads of jobs. For us, it's like we're not one of those big advertiser brands, and it's so annoying that we're not at that stage yet where we can have that like epic influence. But within our own platform, like we've always kept it super inclusive. And like I didn't grow up being like, I want to dress like skinny white women. Like that was never like my dream. It's like, I just want to dress people. And I've said this before, like being a designer, the core of your job is kind of like dressing the human form. And if you can't dress all the different human forms, then what you're doing, like you're not being a proper designer. So I think for us, it's just been about being authentically inclusive since day one, which I'm very proud to say, and it's just come very naturally.
Yes, it's amazing. That's really great. Okay, so has there been a specific collection or a project that you've seen the past year that has really inspired you? Because obviously as artists, we're always looking for inspiration everywhere. So,
oh, that's such a hard question because like I'm sure there's like a million. I can't remember any of them. But I would say, just kind of like, I know this is such a general question, but it's kind of true. I've really enjoyed looking at like the silver linings of like the pandemic craziness that happened, and one of them, like, it forced many creatives to have to be more creative about how they release their work, because we couldn't do like shows or the shoots that we normally do. And I think like it's been so amazing to see all the photographers who have done like I don't know how you call it, like video call photo shoots, or like like for us, like we had never done a fashion film, and then we did the Lil Nas one, the SNL one, and like those were such fun creative projects for us that I think we got to flex like new muscles. So I'd just say I've been really inspired by seeing everyone's like way of working around the obstacles that were like clearly in their way.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so one more question. We have a lot of LGBTQ plus people watching us today, obviously, and a lot of them may have an interest in a career in fashion. We did already give some advice, but what is something that you wish you were told when you first entered the fashion industry, and how would it affect you? Like,
I mean, there's loads of things. I would say I would say that like I wish people had warned me that while fashion is a very exciting and friendly industry in many ways, it's also not in other ways. And I think when you're so excited to make your dream real, you sometimes can be a bit too trusting of everyone. So I think you've got to just be really aware of like whose advice do you take. You can't take everyone's advice, otherwise your message will be so mixed up. So you've got to decide who you're going to listen to, if you're going to listen to anyone. And then my other advice would be you've got to be authentically you. Don't try to emulate someone else because they're already there doing it better. But you've also got to think about, well, how does my authentic, unique style fit into the world? Like, who are my clients? Like, who are, like, because at the end of the day, creativity may be paramount, but you need to pay your bills, and you need to, like, if you want your creative vision to grow bigger, you need to bring in money. So you've got to work out, like, how do you fit into, like, kind of the corporate structure of the country you live in? Like, how do you, like, yeah, how do you get money from that? And, like, out of curiosity for you, like, what would be your main advice for young fashion photographers who are breaking in?
I mean, I feel like I'm still breaking into the industry. I'm not even close to like where I want to be yet. And I've done the opportunity to work on some amazing projects, including with you. I feel like one thing that I've noticed is like you always have to put yourself out there and really be the one reaching out, because a lot of designers and a lot of stylists are getting like thousands of emails every week from a bunch of different people. So just you have to be persistent, I feel. And then another thing is I feel like a lot of like people entering the industry feel like they have to collaborate with the biggest stylist or like the biggest designer or like the most famous makeup artist. And I feel like there's so many people around you who are up and coming as well and have such amazing talent, and people should be taking advantage of that space they're in and just collaborate together and just create as much as they can.
I think that's such a good point in terms of like your peers, because like if you look at every kind of like time in fashion, there've been a bunch of like icons who have grown up together, and like they've got that status by working together. And I think that's such a good point, is I think a lot of people especially arrive in New York and they're like, I'm only interested in dealing with like mega people and like getting to the top that way. But it's like, well, mega people might not want to work with you yet, so you need another way to get in. So I think that's like a solid piece of advice.
Great. So we're obviously in Pride Month. So what are your current plans for Pride? Sorry.
No, I get like my current plans for Pride are not enough. Like usually I'd be in like NYC, like living it up, and like we'd throw a party and all of that. But because of travel restrictions, I'm still in the UK. So, and while Pride still happens here, I am just kind of like getting us ready for September Fashion Week. And kind of for us, Pride is an amazing month. It's great, and loads of companies pour a lot of money into queer talent, which is like we love. But I do think there needs to be a little bit more of a movement of like these companies should also be supporting like queer talent 365 days of the year. Not saying that they need to like constantly have that on their main stage. We get it, they want to show other things, but like that support should always be there. It doesn't need to be so centered around like Pride. Like there's no reason why you can't have like a queer talent promoting something else for you. And so for us, like we see Pride as like an all year round event. Like we don't channel it into 1 month. Like we're always representing in every project we do. So the actual month itself, we almost like to go quiet because we're like ready for the other 11 months of making it like Pride times. What about you? What are you doing for Pride?
I'm currently in New York, and I'm working with Suzanne Barch as she's launching On Top again, and she is doing an event, and it's going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot of performers, and yeah, if you're in New York, you should definitely come if you make it.
When is it?
I believe it's June 26th. Yeah.
Okay, depressingly, I won't be there, but I'll come to another thing. And like for anyone watching this who doesn't know who Suzanne Barch is, like get on Google and like work that out, because she's like, I would consider her as like the queen of New York nightlife and like definitely. A queer trailblazer. Like she held the first ever AIDS fundraising event. Like it's like she is such an icon who was in like one of my last campaigns. But like yeah, big shout out to the legend.
I love her. Okay. I'm trying to see. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given, and the worst piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Oh my God, which one do I say? I would say the best advice I've been given, and it's really hilarious because I can't really quote this back. Like, I just remember the gist of what the advice was, but this person had really fabulous wording. But I once, in some odd series of events, ended up having dinner in Las Vegas with David Copperfield, the magician, like the one, like iconic one. And he told me, it's really simple advice, but it really rung true. He was like, when you think you've given 110%, keep on pushing and like put another 10% of effort into it. And that's what takes things from amazing to like magical and just like way. It's such obvious advice. It kind of comes into my mind every time when I do feel like we're done and we're exhausted and we can't do any more. I'm like, no, let's do more because it will just make it so much better. And then I'd say my worst piece of advice. Wait, I've got another piece of best advice. Diane von Furstenberg told me stretch fabric is the key to a successful women's wear brand. It's true. But another piece of bad advice, I don't remember. I'm sure there's lots, but I'm just going to keep on the positives.
Okay. We can keep it at the positives. That's what we're here for. Okay, so there's a lot of, what's the best piece of advice that, or I guess what's the message you would like to give to the It Gets Better community and the queer youth that's watching today? Like, what do you want to leave them with?
I want to leave them with, I mean, like, I think this organization is so amazing because the name encapsulates everything. Like, it's always about showing younger people who aren't in their safe space yet that it, like, it gets incredible. Life becomes amazing. And I remember that point in my life where I felt like it was never going to be incredible, and it does get better. But I would say my like kind of piece of advice I would say is just, if you're not in a situation you don't love right now, start planning for the like life you want. I would say, like, don't use that time in vain. Like, just start putting together the roadblock, like the roadmap in your head of like how you're going to get there. And then if you are in the place where you love it, just celebrate the people around you, lift everyone up and lift yourself up, and just kind of like whatever you want to do, just go do it. I know it sounds so generic, but it's true. Like, it's as simple as that. Yeah. Just do it.
That's very much true. Okay, well, this has been such an amazing time. I want to thank the It Gets Better project for letting us have this space to chat and bring highlights to these conversations. For any resources, advice, and more, everyone please visit the It Gets Better website and all their social channels across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I want to give a special thank you to Christian for being here today and having this conversation.
My pleasure. And also, before this, I have some rapid fire questions that I want to ask you, because these are always my favorite types of interview questions, like especially when you've got like some like fab celeb, and like I want to hear about like what their favorite songs are and stuff. So my first question is, one thing you'd never leave home without?
Cologne. I wear cologne.
Cologne. What cologne do you wear?
I either wear Bleu de Chanel or Dior Sport. Those are my
very sure. Yes. I'm pulling up the rest of my rapid fire questions because I wrote them down. That's fab. Like, I am useless. I always forget cologne, and it's such like an essential part. Okay, I'm not doing a very good job at rapid fire. Okay, TV show. It's mediocre fire. Yeah, favorite TV show.
Favorite TV show right now is probably Schitt's Creek.
Great answer, Moira Rose for life. One thing you will do 100%. One thing you will 100% do in 2021.
Probably go out more because we've been home for so long. So definitely go out more and have fun. Yes.
Same. Like, I think back to all the times when I said no, and I'm like, oh, what was I doing? Yeah. Like, I was in New York being invited to amazing things, and I like wouldn't go. But yeah, so that's the same one. And I guess this might be the same thing, but like, what's your favorite thing about New York City?
Being in the moment and just being so spontaneous and just like being able to walk out and just find 5 different things to do. But at the same time, sometimes we can't find anything to do. So,
so true.
Yeah, I think that's being spontaneous. I feel like that's the favorite part. Yeah.
Same. Like, I think as well, like, New York just has like every type of person, which I love. Like, I love that you're constantly surrounded by so many people that are different than you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna go next. What's your favorite song?
I'm really embarrassing. I've only got one song that's coming to mind. It won't let me think of another song, but I'm gonna say "Rain on Me" because it's
Rain on Me.
wide. Like,
We love
go
that.
rain on me.
We love that. Your favorite movie?
I am obsessed with Cloud Atlas. Like, I don't know whether anyone's seen it here, but it's like one of the best movies like ever made. I love Cloud Atlas. Or Melancholia 1 or 2.
Okay, cool. Who's your icon?
Oh, there's so many of them. Dolly Parton, Tina Turner, John Galliano, McQueen. It's a mixture of all of them.
Okay, and who's a muse that you still haven't worked with that you would love to work with?
Oh my gosh, Dolly Parton, Tina Turner, Cher, I would say Elton John. I want like all the legends. Like they're the people who I'm after now.
Great. Well, thank you, Christian, so much for being here again. I have to do. Okay. Well, this has been one of the highlights of my career. I'm so glad we got to work with the It Gets Better project. If for any resources, please visit the It Gets Better website and all their social channels on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Christian, thank you so much for being here, and this was amazing.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me here, and I can't wait to chat to you in real life soon.
Yes. I'll see you in New York Fashion Week. Great.
Can't wait.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Nobody talked about being gay. And if you did talk about it, you could be put in prison.
You think, is this going to be my life, pretending that I'm something that I'm not?
I had no way of really understanding that I could be the girl that I believed that I was. I thought that my mother would not love me because I acted this way. Oh gosh, I don't want to cry.
Oof, in my family, it was like the worst thing you could be is a lesbian.
I remember I had a journal, and after I wrote this in the journal, I threw it out. I wrote, I am gay. No one can ever know this.
I become extremely aware of my sexuality. It made me feel prepared to be in this world.
It was the rights of gays to parent that did lead me to coming out.
It's fun to challenge people's misconceptions about what it is to be gay.
We realized now we can be both a pop band and we can be a political band. We were like, let's make some change. Like, I want to see this stuff before I'm dead.
I had a responsibility. I was going to live my life and I was going to live it fully.
I think what I would tell a young person that's struggling is to not listen to anyone but yourself.
Remember that you are enough and that you are complete.
It will get better, and I'm the personification of it.
Hi guys! So this is Calle
and this is Poché, and today we're super excited to be here
in this beautiful space with It Gets Better. And we have a beautiful
bow painted by Poché, actually, with some of your questions. We're going to answer some of your questions while doing Pride makeup. We actually do every single year because we love it, and it's really easy to do.
And it's really fun. And you can use it as inspiration if you want.
Yes.
So there were plenty.
There were plenty of questions, and they were like really great.
I know.
So now in Spanish, for the people who speak Spanish here, vamos a estar respondiendo algunas de sus preguntas mientras nos hacemos un maquillaje de Pride, que honestamente lo hacemos todos los años porque nos encanta y es súper fácil de hacer, súper divertido, lindo. Siempre es como una buena opción. Entonces
vamos a empezar con sus preguntas. Hay preguntas en inglés y hay preguntas en español. Entonces vamos a ir viendo qué sale. Todas son Pride related.
Exacto.
¿Cierto? ¿Tú las viste?
Vi un par.
¿Hiciste trampa?
No, no hice trampa. Vi un par.
Están enumeradas. Vamos a sacar numeritos y las vamos leyendo del celular.
Exacto.
Así que vamos a ver. ¿Estás lista?
So, I'm ready.
¿Con qué quieres empezar? Do you want to start with the makeup or with a question?
I think we should start with a question, and while we read it, the other one can start doing her makeup.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you do it. I'll start. So.
I'm nervous. A ver, ¿qué dirá?
Okay.
La 3.
En español.
En español, entonces dice, add colors my D. Pregunta. En un país como Colombia, ¿cómo fue empezar a actuar en público como una pareja en ese tiempo y cómo lo es ahora? In a country like Colombia, what is it like to start acting in public as a couple at that time, and what is it like now?
So, since it's a question asked in Spanish, we're going to answer that one in Spanish. So, la verdad fue un poco raro para nosotras cuando empezamos a... ¿Quieres el delineador negro?
No sé, creo que empezar con los colores.
Bueno, yo voy a empezar con el negro, como pueden ver. Cuando empezamos a... Cuando ya era público y cuando ya todo el mundo sabía que estábamos juntas, porque habíamos estado mucho tiempo, pues como en secreto nosotras. Entonces siempre fue un poco raro esa transición de, ok, esto es 100% para nosotras, de nosotras como privado, a como, ok, ya podemos estar tranquilas en público porque es que es normal, está bien. Entonces siento que fue raro al inicio porque la gente igual siempre voltea a mirar, siempre como que hay una reacción en la gente.
Total. Pero creo que ha cambiado con el tiempo y me parece lindo, sobre todo ver las generaciones, no sé, como mi hermanita.
Sí.
My little sister has 18. I always forget her age.
18.
She's 18. Ella tiene 18 y como que ver ese nuevo mindset que tienen esas generaciones como que dan ganas igual de vivir más libremente y como que yo tengo mucha esperanza por Latinoamérica en ese aspecto. Entonces yo siento mejoría a la hora de estar en público y,
yo igual.
Y ya no pienso dos veces
sí,
quiero
ya no lo pienso,
coger
ya.
tu mano, darte un beso, como que siento que es absolutamente natural y no hemos tenido
una mala pues, exacto. Gracias a Dios. Y antes de seguir con la que sigue, me acabo de hacer un delineado negro normal. I just made cat eye, like black, simple, just like your everyday black eyeliner.
And I don't know what I'm doing because I thought this was really purple. So now you take that question.
Okay, I'll take the next one. Give me 1 second. It's a little difficult doing black eyeliner while you.
Okay, then speak. Today we're using these eyeliners. So if you don't have those, you can use regular eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Right. So we have these colors, and we didn't have purple, so that's why I was using that one. But it's weird. It looks like silver. So
let me see. It doesn't, like, it looks purple, but just like light purple,
And
you know?
to you, I don't think they're seeing any purple in my eyes right
Just keep going, and then you can, like, make it.
Should I trust the process?
Yeah, I always said you should always trust the process, and you never do. And the times you do, you always get a surprise. So, next question.
I'm going to copy what you're doing.
So, next, number 6. Let me see. This one's in Spanish also. What? Did you put the paper inside? Because it's the same.
No, it was the third one.
Wait.
I think
No,
I did
you did you.
No, it was your fault.
It was your fault.
No.
Yeah.
It was the third one in Spanish.
Oh, yeah. So
1, 2,
6.
3,
Un
4,
país como
5,
Colombia.
6.
But why did you answer the number 6? That doesn't make any sense.
Cometiste un error.
I didn't.
Mujer, these ones are the same as this one.
No.
You put double number to each one.
I didn't. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
and it's a
6,
screenshot.
7, 8, 9.
Question.
It's not. Okay.
Another one.
I'll just read number 3 instead.
It's the one I answered.
Oh. I'm an idiot. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just forget this happening. Okay, number 2. This one is also in Spanish. Okay, great. Al ser username Sam por caché. Qué cute. And the question is, al ser parte de la comunidad LGBTQ+, ¿de qué se sienten más orgullosas? And now the question in English. Being part of the LGBTQ+ community, what are you most proud of?
Es lindo porque hoy justo tuvimos una conversación ambas como del Pride.
Ajá.
Y siento que la palabra Pride tiene muchos significados, como it has different meanings depending on your perspective. Y para nosotras, Pride es el ser como uno es y mostrárselo al mundo como sin reparo. O sea, como es una sensación de bienestar y es como respeto propio. Y a mí me parece muy lindo como ser parte de una comunidad tan de mente abierta, como tan que abraza la diversidad.
Y tan libre, ¿no?
Eso es lo que a mí más me gusta,
pues,
como saber que es como una gran familia.
Ajá.
Que está en todo el mundo y
total.
Y sí.
Yo siento que también es como, o sea, lo que a mí una de las cosas que me hace estar orgullosa es como ver a tanta gente siendo genuinamente ellos mismos, ¿saben? Como celebrando sus diferencias, celebrando quiénes son, celebrando el amor y a quien aman, como que sean ellos mismos. A mí eso me parece demasiado inspirador y demasiado emocionante. Entonces, esa es una de las cosas que me hace estar a mí tan orgullosa de ser parte de esta comunidad.
A mí también me hace muy orgullosa como sentir que me di mi tiempo para descubrir realmente quién era. Entonces, yo siento mucho orgullo como por mi descubrimiento.
No, total.
¿Entiendes lo que quiero decir? El tuyo está quedando muy lindo. I'm trying to solve whatever I did before, and it's not ending as you.
But you know why? Because I'm trusting the process. You're not trusting the process. Well, you need to learn that in life you need to trust the process until the end.
Okay.
You just cannot give up like in the middle of the process. You need to trust the process and finish it.
Es una muy buena lección.
You see?
Tomen nota, queridos.
Y queridos. Okay.
Give me
1 second. Yeah. Oh.
Eso estaba muy difícil.
Ay, okay. This looks cute. Look.
Justo elegimos delineador.
Okay. You go. Next question.
Okay.
What's the next color?
Sí, number 1 in Spanish.
Yellow.
So it says
this one.
At it gets better, Colombia.
Ooh.
¿Qué mensaje de esperanza tienes para los jóvenes LGBTQ+ en Colombia? qué mensaje de esperanza. Yo creo, y va ligado a la primera pregunta, como que yo sí siento que hay un mind shift en Latinoamérica y a mí eso me emociona un montón. Y no sé, yo veo el cambio ocurrir. ¿Tú también ves el cambio ocurrir?
La verdad, sí veo el cambio ocurrir. Siento que ha sido un proceso precisamente y que hemos ido avanzando en general, en todas las como circunstancias y en todo lo que va alrededor del Pride y de la comunidad. Hemos ido avanzando, entonces sí, siento que vamos bien en el proceso y que no hay que terminar la lucha, o sea, la lucha sigue y ahí vamos y cada vez hay más aliados y cada vez hay gente como que simplemente respeta más la situación y que no se mete en la vida de nadie, ¿saben?
Pero como que yo puedo entender la preocupación de un joven que sea parte de la comunidad estando en Latinoamérica, como que, no sé cómo decirlo, como que we look outside Colombia and it feels like it's easier for the youth outside Latam. Pero siento que hay como que el cambio está en nosotros. Entonces, a medida de que vayamos dando pasos y haciendo que la gente que está alrededor sean aliados, como que va a acelerar ese proceso.
Total.
Y va a ser más fácil para el resto.
Total, yo también siento que es algo normal y hay gente que todavía duda como adentro de la comunidad en sí. ¿Será que lo hago? ¿Será que no? ¿Será que puedo coger a mi pareja de la mano? Y entre más todos seamos como actuemos normal, porque es algo normal, y dejemos de pensar todo tanto, más natural va a ser, ¿saben? Para la gente y para cómo uno se siente. Entonces, eso es lo que yo pienso. Oigan, so let's talk a little about the makeup here. So, yeah. This is like 2 eyeliners. The first one is like the black classic eyeliner. And on top, we're just doing like colors, but also an eyeliner, ¿verdad?
¿Verdad? We could be doing like a whole eyeshadow Pride tutorial, but I think this one is easier and it's like more realistic because in Pride Day, you want something fast.
Yeah, you want something fast, but you also want to look cute because it's Pride. And I think this makeup, it's a great option. You just need like a black eyeliner and colors.
Oh, and these are like
basically
eyeliners, but in marker.
Oh!
So we have like liquid
counting
and markers, and if you have eyeshadow, you can use those. Oh, and there are also
what
if you want to get
excited.
No, I wasn't going to say excited.
Well, I
was going to say that if you want to get another kind of eyeliner, there are also like this gel. That's like a gel, right?
Like for this, you need to put some like Fix Plus or like some water on it for you to apply it. But this one, so if you want to use like this type of eyeliners, it's when I said it's because you're getting a little excited because these ones are not as easy to work with like the ones we're using today.
This one melted.
Oh,
but this one could also work really well. But this one is
melting. So right now I just put like some orange, pink, yellow. I didn't put red. I should put red, right?
Yes.
I think red's important. So I'm just gonna use this
figure
one.
Out what to do because I want to have like a darker green, and I don't find any. Oh, this one maybe.
So first I'm putting red here. I'm starting with a red. I'm going inside out with red. Let me just put it on the other eye.
You know what's a big tip?
What?
Como que intenten difuminar cada color que van poniendo con el anterior. Es decir, no lo pongan como inmediatamente al lado, sino que quede un poco
encima
para que sea como más natural.
So, ya me puse rojo, naranja, rosado, amarillo. ¿Estoy bien en los colores? Es que necesito ver una foto mentalmente de los colores para acordarme. Ok, sí.
No sé si lo pueden ver, pero ahí va el verde.
Ay, qué lindo. ¿Cuál es ese verde?
Este.
Ay, pero yo quiero este.
But I want to take off this glitter.
But
It shows the world my first mistake.
It's
Beautiful.
not a
I
mistake.
love the red.
It's just cute, you know? It's a little bit of sparkle. So, okay, next question.
This one is the one I used before. Oh, no.
But I think I'm
going
going
use
to
that one
use this one.
So, my turn or your turn? I don't remember who did it last.
So, I'll just do it. English question. Great. Let's see which one. Number 2.
So, here. Number 2.
Okay,
Here,
I'm going to
so
read it.
Read it out loud.
So, username Aleminfinitomem. Okay.
Aleminfinitomem? Okay.
What do you consider is essential for a happy and lasting relationship like what you have? Oh, that's cute. That's a cute question.
That's a good question. And that's also something many people have always asked us.
Yeah.
And I think there's not a definitive answer because I think it depends on
what you consider like it's a happy and lasting relationship, right?
Super subjetivo.
I don't know.
I don't know how
to mean either.
But I think one of the most important things for us is to be really transparent with each other. And we don't keep any secrets from the other. And we know this is a safe space for us to share whatever we are feeling or thinking or worrying about. So I think that's something really unique, even as it sounds weird.
Yeah.
In our relationship. And I say that because it's not that easy to find. Like many people feel like they have to hide something,
Some stuff,
or something they are thinking about to their significant other.
And I don't know, maybe there'll be couples who doesn't like to share everything with like with your partner, but in our case that's been like a really important part of our relationship because we tell each other everything, what we feel, everything, and we try to be like the more we try to be, ¿cómo se dice?
¿En español?
Oh, pero lo preguntas en inglés.
¿Qué quieres decir?
Que tratamos de ser, sí, como demasiado transparentes con la otra.
That's something important, and also communication.
Communication.
And we have struggles with communication.
Yeah.
We are not a perfect relationship, and that's fine. And I think it's unhealthy to
think
believe there are absolutely perfect relationships. So yeah, I think it's something we have to work on each day, but communicating, even if it's hard, it's something that has been super important for us.
Yeah.
And we have different kinds of
ways of communicating.
Yeah, we communicate differently, but that's also like a task you should have in a relationship, like to find that love language.
Totally.
And to reciprocate it.
Yeah, and like to learn what your partner needs and how like to communicate with them, because what Poché just said is basically not every time people are going to communicate with you the same way you're going to communicate with them. So you need to learn and understand and be like what's the word I'm looking for? Willing to understand and like to be like to try to put yourself in the other's like shoes and think about many perspectives, you know.
Y para la gente que habla español, preguntan qué ha sido como clave para nuestra relación, como para llevarla como la hemos venido llevando. Entonces, hasta ahora hemos dicho que ser transparentes y la comunicación.
Total.
Y creo que otra cosa también que que juega mucho a favor nuestro es que antes éramos mejores amigas. Like before we were together, we were best friends.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference because we have like this complicity. That's a word.
I think
Let's hope.
Let's hope it is.
Which is really beautiful and it's like playful.
Exactly.
And I think that makes us closer to each other in new ways because we already loved each other as friends.
Totally.
And we are still those
best friends. Totally.
¿Qué más dirías tú que es clave para una relación?
¿Qué más diría yo?
Voy a poner el amarillo.
¿Qué más diría yo que...
Está raro, pero let's try.
Yo me voy a poner pestañina. ¿Qué más diría yo que... ¿Qué fue lo que me dijiste? Se me olvidó.
¿Qué más dirías tú que puede ser clave para una relación feliz?
Yo siento que uno a veces se concentra mucho en el futuro y está esperando muchas cosas del futuro y de lo que uno quiere a futuro. Yo sí considero que uno se tiene que visualizar con su pareja, pero también a veces nos preocupamos tanto por el futuro que dejamos de vivir en el presente. Entonces siento que eso también es súper importante y conquistar todos los días a tu pareja. Porque, como acabo de decir, uno tiene que ser realista. Y puede haber mucho compromiso, puede haber mucho todo, pero uno siempre tiene que estar como trabajando y conquistando y estando ahí para la otra persona, pues porque en cualquier momento igual uno no sabe qué depare la vida. Entonces, eso también me parece importante.
By the way, is this supposed to be orange? Because this is not working for me as an orange.
No.
And I don't see any orange here. There's not. Oh my God, I want an orange.
That's an orange.
That's not an orange.
It's about perspective. For me, it's orange. Okay, now, next question.
Oh.
What?
We didn't just show an orange color? It was an orange?
No, that's like a... No.
Orange.
You don't want to use this.
Orange.
Trust me, you don't want to use this. This is like annoying.
Well, we're not using
Use that orange.
Yeah.
Next
Something
question.
else you think we're missing?
No,
In this question?
I don't.
Let's see. Another. Oh.
So now I'm just applying a lot of mascara because I just finished my eyeliner.
Username Danae62245L24. ¿Qué es lo más bonito de ir a una marcha Pride? What is the most beautiful thing about going to a Pride march?
Ooh,
March?
I don't know.
To the Pride.
Oh.
We have been
just to one. Oh
no,
two.
We went to Madrid,
Spain.
Madrid's Pride, and we went to Bogota. It was like
it's like
I don't remember.
2019 we were here like in Bogota, and 2018 we were in Madrid. I think.
It's
orange. I told you. So yeah, there's a big difference in Bogota's Pride and Madrid's Pride, right?
Yeah, but I think the most beautiful thing is seeing
people being themselves.
Like, I don't know how to explain. This is weird, but I.
Oh, this is a question in Spanish, by the way.
Better. Iba a decir, como que yo sé que todos estamos, o sea, cuando digo todos o todes, me refiero a la comunidad, como que yo sé que todos estamos en Bogotá, ¿me van a entender? O todos estamos en Madrid, pero como que están en sus casas, están en diferentes lugares. El hecho de que haya como un lugar de celebración y que todos salgan al mismo lugar y como que esté esa energía de amor.
Sí, es muy poderoso.
Es muy poderoso y creo que no lo entiende hasta que asiste y hasta que sale literal el día del Pride. Y obviamente desde el año pasado pues ha sido diferente por la situación mundial, pero ojalá se pueda retomar absolutamente normal esa salida a ir a marchar porque la energía que hay es espectacular.
Total.
Y una cosa que me encantó era como leer las pancartas que habían. No sé, habían mamás con pancartas que decían cosas de sus hijos. Leímos cosas bellísimas,
Sí.
ahorita no me acuerdo.
Y cuando estábamos en Madrid también, la gente se asomaba como, o sea, como abuelitos y gente mayor se asomaba en los balcones cuando iban pasando, como cuando pasaba la marcha por ahí, a sacar la bandera, o con hijos, me acuerdo full, que salían como con los hijos cargados y saludaban. Súper lindo, la verdad.
So, are you finished?
I'm about to finish.
Let's imagine this is orange.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should I put red?
Yeah, red.
Thank you for your
Perfect. I'll read the next one, and I think we're about to finish, almost. So, number 7. This one's in Spanish. Let me see. So, Spanish. ¿Recomendarían a las personas que son parte de la comunidad hablar de su orientación sexual a su familia de una forma creativa? Hay personas que hacen pasteles o cartas llenas de humor sano, etc. This is a cool and funny question. In English, it will be, will you encourage people who are part of the community to talk about their sexual orientation to their family in a creative way? There are people who make cakes, letters full of healthy humor, etc. Me encanta. O sea, I think, o sea, en español. Yo creo que es una forma muy como sana. Siempre puede salir mal, puede salir bien, puede salir mal, no sé, porque depende del contexto en el que estén. Pero a mí me hubiera encantado hacer algo así chistoso. ¿Saben? Siento que aparte le quita un poco de peso, como que da un poco de aire. Como que en vez de sentar como si algo trágico hubiera pasado, no, nada trágico ha pasado, no ha pasado nada malo. Entonces me parece súper cool la gente que hace este tipo de coming outs, como con un ponqueo, un ponqueo, salen con una camisa o como cosas así. Siento que es súper, es light. El humor siempre es una buena idea, la
sí,
verdad.
Porque obviamente depende
del contexto.
El contexto, porque pues aunque yo estoy de acuerdo en que entre más todos fuéramos así, más peso le quitaríamos a algo que no debería tener tanto peso. Pero también entiendo que pues no es la realidad de muchas personas y hay familias de mente cerrada que pues no creo que el mejor approach sea un chiste. O de pronto sí.
O de pronto sí. No,
pero
who
me
knows?
parece chévere.
Eso solo lo sabe la persona que esté en esa situación, pero es una forma, me parece que yo honestamente no lo pensé. No lo tenía en el panorama y me hubiera gustado tenerlo en el panorama presente. Hubiera hecho reír tanto a mi mamá y a mi papá, me hubiera encantado.
I don't think your mom
maybe
would have laughed.
maybe, who knows? Who knows?
Next question. I'm going to apply mascara though. So I don't think you can see it. It looks better in person, I promise. But here we have like blue, green, light
I think
green, yellow, orange.
It's
red.
working great for you. Do you see? You just trust the process and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I told you.
All right.
Next question. English number 1.
So now I'm applying mascara.
So, if you had the opportunity, what advice would you give to your past selves about your journey of coming out and finding who you really are?
Oh, wow.
You go first.
So, it's weird. Sorry, I'm always doing this because my ears always push how do you say it?
I don't know what I'm going to say. AirPods?
AirPods out.
Yeah.
So I have to press them. It's weird because for me, I have always felt like I knew about my sexuality since I was little, but I kind of neglected to myself the idea of it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even let myself think that maybe that's what I was. So one advice I would give myself would be that, like to not try to erase feelings and thoughts I was having because of what I thought was incorrect
Yeah.
at that time.
Like
And
for you to just feel and be.
And
to
I
let
think
you
it
feel
would
yourself.
have been a lot easier on my heart
Yeah.
because I couldn't find love and I didn't understand
Why.
And I think that would have been easier
Yeah, for sure.
and fair.
For sure.
You?
So, what advice will you give to your past self about your journey? I think I actually don't know. I think how it happens was like the way
How it happened?
how do I say it? Como que pasó como tenía que pasar.
It happened how it was supposed to?
Yeah, I think in my case it happens how it was supposed to happen. But maybe the advice I will give to myself, like past self, will be more around when I came out to my parents.
Okay.
Because like I understood their reaction, and I think I didn't handle it as bad as I could, but maybe to be a little bit more patient with them, maybe.
Okay. That's a good advice.
But I just think it happens how it was supposed to happen. Like I wouldn't change a thing, actually.
That's a good advice. And
so
that word, like patience, I feel like I would also say that to myself. Like I was so I was pressuring myself to understand what was happening to me, and I think we should be patient.
Yeah, we should be patient with ourselves for sure.
And with others, and that's super nice of you to say because we always talk about bad reactions, but we should also understand that we are different human beings and that they had different
beliefs maybe, or they grew up a certain way. And I also think, like, when I say be patient, I don't mean like changing your posture. Posture? How do you say that? Posture? Like, I just mean to be patient, but you don't need to change a thing. You know, like be patient and try to understand and give them space. And yes, like
sadly, we have people around us that have came out to their parents, and then because of a bad reaction, they have came out.
like they got back
in
the closet. Yeah,
and it's super painful for us to see it because I think even though it depends on your context
and on your situation,
there's like this need of oh my god, how do I
to make people uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think
to be comfortable.
There's change en esa incomodidad, como estamos diciendo en inglés, que conocemos gente que ha hecho su coming out
y ha tenido que volverse a meter en el closet por reacciones negativas.
Entonces es como, no, mentira, estaba confundida, no soy gay, y a mí me parece que eso hace mucho más daño.
Y hace más difícil el proceso.
Y siento que hay algo muy importante en esa incomodidad de ambos lados. Yo como hijo, no tiene que ser un papá, por eso estoy dando el ejemplo, yo como hijo, en mi papá hay algo muy lindo igual dentro de esa incomodidad. Ahí es donde hay como el cambio, depende obviamente del contexto, repito.
And I think for you to be comfortable with something at the beginning, you kind of need to be uncomfortable, you know? Like, a lo que me refiero es, a veces en español, para estar cómodos en una circunstancia o con algún, no sé, con cualquier cosa, a veces tenemos que antes incomodarnos, ya sea positivamente, no siempre tiene que ser como en un contexto negativo, pero hasta así, o sea, una vez tiene que arriesgarse y estar en algo que le parece incómodo para después sea como, oh, qué sorpresa, y ya estar cómodo con algo. Y hay gente que no quiere generar esa incomodidad.
Total.
Entonces,
sí. ¿Qué más hay aquí? Y yo me estoy poniendo los
last two questions. So, number 4. Esa ya la respondimos. Esa ya la respondimos.
I like my makeup. You were right. It
I
looks
told
better.
you. No, we already answered. Oh, we already answered that one. This one is actually the last one. It's an English question also. How did you take the big step
of living
together? Ooh.
It was weird.
It actually just happened. Like we didn't plan it
It
at all.
happened by itself. We already were together.
Yeah.
I think we hadn't came out.
We hadn't came out.
To our families.
It actually happened. My mom got married and she left the country. She left the country, sorry. So I stayed. So I had to look for an apartment for myself. And I was a little scared at first, like to be alone and everything. I was like 18, yeah. And so she always like, most of the time she's like, it
wasn't a normal friendship.
No,
like
yeah,
we
sure, it wasn't.
We're all the time together, as you guys see us today.
Yeah,
like,
and
all the time we were like that.
And every single day we did like a sleepover at each other's house.
If it was a Monday, for example, Calle would stay at my house, and then Tuesday I was staying at her house. Like that was the normal thing.
Yeah.
How was that normal to our parents? I still don't get it, but that's how it works somehow. So when her mother left the country, we were supposed to just, like you were moving to your apartment and I was staying at my house.
Exactly. But because we had like this dynamic between...
We were together?
Yeah, we were.
That's confusing.
We were, for sure. We were.
Okay.
We were.
Okay.
Because this happened in May. And this happened in May. And like, it was around this time. Like, it was the 12th of June. I don't remember the year that I came out to my parents. And
you remember the day?
Yeah, because it was the 13th. No. Because one of my best friends'
birthday.
It
was the 14th. Because it was the next
day. Yeah,
well, it doesn't matter.
13 or the 14, it doesn't matter. But by that time we already were together. So, and by that time I already had my apartment. Oh, thank you. I already had my apartment. But yeah, like we just keep doing sleepovers every single day.
Like it happened naturally.
Yeah. And one day I was like, you know what? You should just bring your clothes here. And your dog.
Because I never told my dad, like, I'm moving out.
Yeah.
It was just
it happens just
it's
one day.
An eternal sleepover.
Yeah.
And
here we are.
So yeah. But I think if you are thinking about moving out with someone, you should think about it.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Make it a conscious decision. Like what happened to us, it's not the regular thing. So I would advise you to, think about it and see the pros and the cons.
And you know what? I think it's really important to live with your partner because there's where you like really get to meet them, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, that's how it happens. And I think that was the last question.
Yeah.
Oh, we just finished and we already finished our makeups.
Terminamos ya nuestros maquillajes y esas eran todas las preguntas.
Esperamos les haya gustado. We hope you enjoyed this space. Oh, we're just showing our makeup.
Nos encantaron sus preguntas. Habían un montón, pero bueno, para que alcanzaran a estar en este espacio, elegimos estas. No nosotras en realidad, pero están muy buenas. Entiendo por qué las eligieron.
Y pues nada, gracias a... Perdón, sorry, what were you saying?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say thank you to all the team of It Gets Better for giving us this space.
A todas las personas que están conectadas, que los amamos y sabemos que muchos de ustedes hacen parte de la comunidad, entonces feliz mes y feliz Pride y feliz vida.
Total.
Y
Pride es Pride, sea presencial, online o lo que sea, igual lo celebramos.
Así que celebren así, sea en sus casas, con sus amigos, con su pareja, ustedes solos.
Con su perro, con su gato.
Si están en una situación mundial en donde pueden salir, salgan.
¿Una situación mundial?
Es que no sabe, no sabe cómo explicarlo, pero ustedes me entienden.
Pues ya,
And yeah, that was it.
that was
I
it.
had fun.
I had so
and
much
I
fun.
hope you guys try a new Pride makeup
Yeah,
this year.
let us see if you do these makeups and those pictures.
So yeah,
Thank you, guys.
We love you and happy Pride.
Mwah.
So first queer kiss was awkward. It was with a kid named Luke who went to another school in our district, and our friends from the cross-country teams tried to set us up, and it like all culminated in this dance party that they were having in one of their houses, and I had to figure out a way to get there, so I snuck out of the house, and my mom ended up freaking out at me for it later, which was a whole thing, but I had to get this first kiss, and I got there, and I didn't quite know how to go about it, so we were like kind of grinding, and the friends were looking at us like sort of surreptitiously, so that made it even more awkward, and as we were grinding, we kissed, and it was like really, tongue involved. It was just me kind of going, like, sort of puckered lip sucking, like I used to do on my elbow. And yeah, it was sufficiently awkward, and looking back, I wished that it might have been a little bit more private, but what can you do?
My first queer kiss was in West Hollywood, and there was alcohol involved, so it's a bit blurry. I remember the girl had braces. I just met her that night, and this was, back then when kissing strangers was a thing, pre-pandemic. So it was hot. There was some booty grabbing in public, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, so let me paint a picture for you. I'm a freshman in high school, and I'm in love with my best friend. Now, I talk to him every single day, but I never told him how I felt. Now, this one day in particular, something must have been in the air because I was like super nervous to go to his house, but we had planned to watch Jennifer's Body. It's an amazing film if you haven't seen it, but it is also a horror film. So as we're watching this movie, I am eating popcorn like it is my job because I'm not only frightened by the movie, I am also super nervous because we started to inch closer to each other, and I was like, is this gonna be my first queer kiss? Like with my biggest crush, with my best friend? It felt magical, right? So we kept inching closer and closer to each other, but every time something scary happened, we would jump away from each other. And then finally he just turned to me and kissed me, and I swear my soul left my body. I was so happy. I still remember in that moment, I felt invincible. I was on cloud nine, so happy, and I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I had so much popcorn in my teeth, it was absolutely crazy. Now, it did not work out for us. Was it because he didn't tell me I had popcorn in my teeth? Maybe. But no, he's still one of my best friends to this day, and I love him very much because in that moment, I felt like myself. I felt seen, I felt heard, and I knew I wasn't alone. And to all the members of the LGBTQ+ community, especially the youth, you are not alone. You are loved, you are cherished, you are supported, and you are celebrated. Happy Pride.
Hi, welcome to Gender Reveal, a podcast where we hopefully get a little bit closer to understanding what the hell gender is. We are recording this live for It Gets Better, a digital pride experience. And so I'm here with someone I have never met before. Normally I read your bio, but would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Also, hi, thank you for having me, because I have recently become obsessed with your show, so I'm very excited to be here. So my name is Em Schulz. I am one of the co-hosts of the true crime and comedy podcast, and That's Why We Drink. And I go by they, them. I still don't know how I identify, which makes it difficult for people to label me, but that's me. And I'm really excited to be working with It Gets Better. This is so nerdy of me, but a few years ago, I should remember what like the big historic moment was in queer history, but they had a collaboration with Doritos where they had rainbow Doritos come out, and I've cleaned it, but I still have my bag of rainbow Doritos from It Gets Better. So I'm very I feel like this is a full circle in a weird chip history way. So
yeah, I have a lot of questions, but I do love a chip history. I recently got like an unmarked box of potato chips to my P.O. box. I don't know who sent them, but I got a lot of bags of potato chips. So I feel like from one chip influencer to another, like we're going to have a good conversation.
So yeah. What was it like your favorite flavor, or were you just,
it was a variety. Yeah, I got a bunch of different ones, but I should realize I should introduce myself. So I am your host and resident gender detective, Tuck Woodstock, and Gender Reveal is a podcast where every week we do try to get closer to understanding what gender is by talking typically to a trans person. That could be an artist, an activist, an educator, just a person doing a cool thing in the world. And so today, we're going to be talking mostly about gender because that is the name of the game here, but we're going to try to get you something else in there as well, such as chips. Very important.
Such as chips. One down. Hey, look at us.
Yes, we got it. So I know that you just said that you don't have an answer for this, but unfortunately, we always start the show the same way. And the way is by asking, in terms of gender, how do you describe yourself?
Ooh, I call myself a walking question mark.
Right.
And I guess if I had to pick between a flag right now, I'm between non-binary and gender queer. They just feel like the most gray spaces right now on the spectrum for me. And I've been going through this for the longest time, trying to figure out how I identify, and I have no clue. I've spent many years also thinking I was completely trans, but I'm noticing as the world is growing and as definitions are coming out and there's more and more specific words for feelings, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm not just a polar opposite somewhere on the spectrum. So I'm trying to figure out where in the middle I fall.
Interesting. So I teach workshops about trans identity and trans equity through Sylvian Consulting. And when I teach those workshops, I teach that cisgender means that you neatly identify as the gender and sex that you were assigned at birth, and that trans means that you do not neatly identify consistently with the gender and sex you were assigned at birth. And so when you say you're not completely trans, I'm curious what that means to you, I guess, because
I am still breaking away from thinking of it as one or the other. For the longest time, I grew up like super sheltered to all this stuff, so I'm late to the game.
I mean, we're the same age, so I like to think that we both grew up around the same timeline, and we just like are playing catch up together, you know?
I think you're playing catch up, and you're like a couple strokes ahead of me. I guess I'm still trying to process. I mean, it makes the most sense that trans would just be more of an umbrella. And I think for me, I still associate trans with either you feel like you're in your body or you're not, and that for some reason means polar opposites.
Did you say you think that you feel like you're in your body or you're not?
Or you feel like you identify with the body you were born with or you're not.
So does gender feel like physical to you? Does it feel like rooted in like the way that your body looks and is shaped and configured?
It does, and I'm breaking out of that now, which I'm really liking. To me now, I'm learning that labels, first of all, don't really mean anything. For the longest time, I wanted a label. And so I was trying to piece together what those definitions looked like, because I wanted to be able to have just this finite explanation of who I am and what the hell is going on. And I'm actually really, I have some very wonderful friends who are allies. My girlfriend, she's like, I've never met someone who has been so helpful in teaching me about myself and teaching me about my own community, and just really being there to help me figure myself out. And I'm learning that like a label shouldn't matter. I still feel like I need one, and therefore I'm still searching. But I guess the best way to describe my experience is I feel like I wish I was in a more masculine body. I don't want to be identified as a man or seen as a man, but I also want to look like a man. I mean, this is what my problem is. I have no idea.
I mean, I think that that's normal. And this podcast is supposed to be me asking you questions and not me talking at you. So if you feel like I'm talking at you too much, you can just be like, ask me another question. It's fine.
I'm here for help. So please go for it.
I mean, I think that I made a joke the other day because I have a friend who was saying something like, you know, I'm not like a woman, but also like, I don't want to be seen as a man. And I think that there's actually I'm not a woman, but I don't want to be seen as a man to I'm a boy pipeline. Because I think that even though misogyny runs rampant in our communities, and we like, you know, people who aren't assigned female at birth are like, being seen as a woman is like an affront to my masculinity, blah, blah, blah. I still think that the reverse can also be true, in that those of us who are oppressed by patriarchy, we're all oppressed by patriarchy, but those of us who are like experience misogyny or have experienced misogyny don't want to be a part of patriarchy because we know that it oppresses people. And so it can be really difficult to be like, I have been hurt by men. I have been hurt by the concept of men. I have been hurt by patriarchy. I don't want to perpetuate patriarchy. And yet, like, there's something about masculinity that calls to me, even though masculinity has also hurt me. And I think it can be really difficult to recognize within ourselves that it's possible to like move towards a more masculine, whatever, expression, like way that we act and move and think and feel in the world, or just see those things that were in ourselves the entire time, and also at the same time be like, I can have masculinity, I can be seen in a certain way without like perpetuating like what I don't like about the concept of manhood. So my friend Max has a tweet that says like he, him, as in like, look at that, like there's a dog and it's like, look at him go, not he, him, like a man. And I feel like that's the energy that like a lot of people are like, yeah, I feel like there's something about masculinity that resonates with me. But if you tie that to the word man, it becomes like absolutely intolerable. And I think there's a lot of, trans men who feel that way. So
I can see that. Well, there you go. Teaching me already. Well, I do like that your intro of your show is like, we're going to try to figure out what gender is. And now you've just given me so many more little bullets to look at. So thank you. I think that it will probably be tied to that, and I'm just not aware of it. I feel like I have always looked at gender as more what your aesthetic is, which I don't really feel anymore. But when I first started out on what I call my gender journey, I feel like gender I was looking more at, I don't know what the difference in my mind between aesthetic and expression is, because now I'm more focused on just like how I'm expressing myself, how I look, how it aligns with my happiness. And when I first started out, I thought that I needed all these stereotypical features in order to be seen as one way or another. And now I'm kind of appreciating the in-between. And I don't know, I'm really liking the stage. I think I spent so long feeling really insecure about, I don't look extreme masculine enough, whatever that means. I didn't look I was getting clocked in ways I didn't want. I was hoping that I was seen a different way in public. And now this last couple of years has been more about my own self-love versus just trying to make other people happy and in my appearance and how I'm seen. And so I really like this place. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't end for a while. I'm hoping it just gets better. So
yeah. Do you feel like pandemic helped with that, where you didn't have to like perform gender for other people because you could not leave your home?
1,000%. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels that way, but there really was something very wonderful about something terrible about being in your home, but there's also something really wonderful about being in your home for so long and just having nobody look at you and you just kind of fall into what your natural state would be anyway. And without judgment. And so I've actually, while I've been going outside now after I'm vaccinated, it has been really interesting. So for some reason, there's a new wave of confidence in me where I'm like, oh, I just look how I'm supposed to, which is I had never really thought that way before.
That's great. Yeah. Amazing. Do you feel like your expression changed during pandemic, or do you feel like just the way you thought about expression changed?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think my personal expression changed. I used to be really secure about the more feminine behaviors that I had because I was so, I guess, obsessed with, or not obsessed, but I was really, really on a heightened alert about making sure that I didn't come off as feminine because then I was afraid that people wouldn't take my need for more masculine behaviors. I was afraid they wouldn't take that seriously in me, or that I was, because I still think I still deal with these thoughts that a lot of people work in the binary of either you are feminine or masculine and you can't be both, which I know is not true, but I'm always nervous for that one person who's going to see me and just ruin my day. And, but now while I've been home, I've embraced more of my quote, feminine behaviors or interests or, parts of me that I was trying to suppress for other people. So, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, I definitely think my gender expression has improved, or at least my feelings in my own expression.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot more space for you to like exist as you are instead of like performing a gender, which makes sense to me. And it also makes sense if you're resonating with things like non-binary and genderqueer to be like, I'm having this balance where there are these things of these different elements that I want to incorporate into my life. So yeah, that's great. Good. Well, I'm happy that it has been getting better for you. We are recording this for It Gets Better, a digital pride experience. Can you talk a little bit more about, do you feel like it has gotten better for you? You can, whatever that means to you.
It has. Yeah. Well, in that instance alone, it's been getting better. My own view of myself and my own, self-care coming first and self-love coming first. It's already gotten better in that one space, but over time, in general, my entire coming out story has led to. I'm really lucky in that I've had some really wonderful experiences come out of me being who I am and being my authentic self. And when I first came out, again, I grew up in kind of a more sheltered, conservative area, and also, more of a time where it wasn't acceptable to be anything other than cisgender, heterosexual. Mm-hmm. That's it. And when I first came out, I was really scared about what was going to happen. I knew my parents they said they were, quote, okay with the gays, but I didn't know how they would feel if their only kid was part of that community. Mm-hmm. And I'm really lucky that when I came out originally as gay, they were very accepting. The struggle really came when later down the road, I realized that it wasn't my sexuality that was ever something I was confused about. It was my gender the entire time. When I came out a second time, I had almost been tricked from the first time into thinking that things would go so well because it did the first time. And then when I came out as trans, I think that was a concept that they weren't prepared for. I think they'd thought in the 80s and 90s, what if my kid's gay one day? But they never had to think about, a kid being trans because it was just not even thought of. So that threw them for a loop, and our relationship got rocky for a little bit. It does get better. It is better, but there was a period where it was really tough. So I feel for everyone out there who's wondering how their experience could go in their community and if it's going to get better. And for me, I can say it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious, and like you don't have to talk about this at all if you don't want to, but I'm curious like what coming out looked like when you're like, I still don't know what my gender is. What kind of drove you to talk about it when you're like, I don't actually know what this is?
I had a girlfriend, and she the one that I'm still dating, and I can't think of a more amazing ally. She's just the best. And she's not just for the queer community. She's like all over the place. She is, I can't think of a better person in most fields on protecting communities that need some help. And she was the first person to ever use pronouns for me that felt right. And I didn't want to put her in a situation when she met my parents where she would have to misgender me on purpose while I was in the closet. Mm-hmm. And so I almost got forced into coming out before I was ready, just because I didn't want her to be put in an uncomfortable situation, which I think she would have done it. But this was the first time I finally felt like myself around somebody, and I didn't want to get them messed up in my mix. So, yeah, because I think also I needed the push. I don't think if I was with someone who was going to be such a rock for me, I don't think I would have done it. Absolutely. So has the way that you think about the words and labels you use to describe your sexual orientation changed once the way that you thought about gender changed? I think so. I've been so focused on gender. I've just never looked back, I don't think, on sexuality. I've just been so focused on this, but now I think it was it Bill Nye on his show when he said that sexuality and gender, it's not a spectrum, it's more like a kaleidoscope. I think that was really insightful, where I was like, you can just be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can be moving all around. You don't have to, be in one spot for your whole life. It fluctuates. And I think that was the first time I kind of had one of those aha moments of like, oh, I can feel settled in wherever I am, whatever space I'm in today. Maybe I'm in a different space tomorrow. But that's kind of the beauty of it anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously I'm asking you a lot about gender today because this is a gender podcast. But I've noticed that in other interviews that you do where you're just talking about your work, which is not gender-based, people also tend to ask you about your gender, even when it doesn't seem like particularly relevant to the conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if that feels othering to you, or if that's something you enjoy talking about, or like what that has been like. I'm so glad you asked that question because I have always hoped someone would. I feel like sometimes I'm too understanding of curious people. First of all, I understand that if someone is interviewing me and they want to ask questions that might help somebody else, let's say there's, audience out there who maybe is questioning themselves, and maybe I'm going to be the only person they hear that day that's going to make them feel valid. So for that, I totally get it. I think one day I'm going to become a little more jaded and it will be more othering. Once we have more answers and more people out there representing the community who, everyone's looking up to, I feel like there will be, it'll be more obvious that you can just look that stuff up yourself, versus having to ask people directly what their experience is. So right now I'm happy to be the representative for people who just don't know what's going on. I'm cool with that. I just feel bad that because I'm in such a gray space, all my answers are always so wishy-washy. I wish I could be more grounded so that other people can look up to me and maybe get an answer out of it for themselves. Because right now I am kind of going with the vibe of, do what you want and you'll figure it out later. And so I feel like that's maybe not helpful to some kids who really, really are looking for answers. Yeah, but I mean,
there's a lot of representation out there, and I think that you've spoken before about how it's actually at this point almost more important, if not equally important, to have representation for people who are in, like, I don't know, let's figure it out later, than people who have all the answers. Because I think that if you're only hearing from trans people or whatever, great, you know, if you're only hearing from trans people and cis people who both are like, I'm very confident about my gender, then you're leaving out like all of these people that are like existing in a space where it's unclear. And so I think that's actually like more valuable representation, if anything.
Well, thank you. I do like to spin it that way, where I like to be the person that people can look up to and think like, oh, they don't know and it's okay. But at the same time, I think my own struggles of just wanting to know so bad, and I'm just happening to do it in the public eye. It makes it tricky because sometimes these really personal experiences, I just want to figure it out for myself, but other people are looking up to me to know what my next move is. So I do like being there for people who are curious and who don't know themselves. But in a personal way, I also wish I didn't have to be that, because I sure would love to just know what's going on with me and put it to rest. So.
Yeah. Do you find yourself feeling like there's like one correct, like you're trying to solve a math problem and there's like one correct answer and you just like cannot figure out what the one correct answer is? Because I'm here to tell you that there's not.
I know. I feel like it's more, I feel like it's more of a sentence that I'm trying to finish and I don't know how to finish the sentence. Sure. And I feel like there's, it's almost like a Mad Lib, and I have a good 10 really good words I could put there, and I just don't know which one is going to make the funniest sentence.
Sure.
So I think that's probably but I guess in the same way, it's still a formula and there is no formula. But yeah, I'm always fluctuating between a few different identities and not really knowing where I am. So I can just kind of keep fingers crossed that maybe there's an identity that I am that just hasn't come out yet, and I'll learn that definition and it'll click, you know?
I think that that's true. I think that there's definitely going to be like, there is always, but there's going to continue to be like more evolution of the way that we talk about gender. And I also relate to that feeling of like, well, one day there'll be language around this that like makes more sense. When you were talking about like which flag you would pick, you said like non-binary or genderqueer. Do those feel like distinct identities to you, or just like different words that you're like, which word will I put in my Mad Lib? Because like in some cases those are feel like synonyms to people, in some cases they feel different.
I think it's like it's a Venn diagram in my mind, where I think there's some similarities and there's some differences, and so I can't figure out if I'm in the middle of the Venn diagram or if I actually align with just one of them. And yeah, I do think they're separate identities, but they both feel, if in terms of a spectrum, they feel in between, which is kind of what I'm dealing with. So I think I'm just trying to learn more about each of them to figure out which definition feels more right. But and I just went on this whole spiel about how I really wish I had answers, but at the same time, I also, like I said earlier, I'm kind of loving this space where it also doesn't matter. So I feel like all my experiences in this are just kind of this weird gray space where it's, I want answers, but also I'm loving that I don't care about the labels right now, but one day I'll want the labels. And it's really frustrating because I want to be as good of an ally as I can, and I want to be able to educate people the best I can, but I'm in the middle of my own education. And so I'm always nervous that I'm being less helpful than I think I am. So I can't imagine how you do it. I feel like that would be really stressful to make sure that you were always on top of it, because so many people are looking up to you. I think
that your you can ask me questions, but also I think your platform is like 50 to 100 times bigger than mine is. And so I think that's part of it, right? Is you're like, have a much, much wider reach, and you have a reach of a lot of, I mean, I don't know. How would you describe your community? Like, do you feel like you have a large trans listenership as,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think,
I think my so one of the best parts about my podcast's listeners is that so many of them are queer, and so many of them are learning that they're queer as they're listening to our show. So that gives me hope that I'm doing the right thing and I'm being a good poster child for whoever needs it. And I have it's really fun whenever we're on tour. Every single show, there's at least one trans person who comes up and says that I was able to help them in some way. And the most impactful moments are, I'd say there's been about a dozen now shows where parents of trans kids have come to the meet and greet and said that I was able to help them understand their kid more, which that's really powerful. But then I get this kind of imposter syndrome where I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, so the fact that I'm helping people is so wonderful, but then I get in my head where I'm like, well, am I leading them astray and they don't know it? And so it messes with my head a little bit, since I want to be there for people without even knowing myself. So yeah.
That sounds really challenging. I do think a lot about people who are transitioning in the public eye, and like it does seem like really, really difficult. I know, so I have been doing a gender journey for like the 4 years that I've been doing this show. And you can go back to early episodes, and there are people who start the show by listening to the early episodes. And I'm like, what if you didn't? Like, what if you listen to the new episodes where I know what I'm doing and I know who I am? And they're like, no, I must start at the beginning where it's bad. And so I know, like, for you, if you start at the beginning, audiences will like hear you getting misgendered. And so, I wonder, like, have you ever thought about like, wow, what if we just didn't have those episodes up anymore? Does it feel important to you to sort of have that record?
I think I'm afraid to let myself think about it because I don't want to hurt my own feelings, but we've kept them up because, first of all, they were really critical to the show and introducing ourselves in general. So it's almost like we're stuck in that. But we have thought, oh, what if we went back and edited over the audio so nobody knew, and like you weren't misgendered every time, or we didn't dead name you. And I think to do that, for me, it would almost feel a little, I don't want to say cowardly, because I don't think this is a matter of bravery or anything like that. But I do think that it's the beginning of a story. One of the best parts about our podcast is that we started as people who didn't know each other. We were complete strangers and we grew into best friends. And so I think the best part about those early parts of the podcast where even I was being misgendered is my own story hadn't even begun in terms of gender. So I think that it might be helpful for people to see that gradual experience that maybe they're going through, seeing it in a podcast that they listen to.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And also, if it at some point is causing you a lot of anguish, you should still change it. But yes, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm settled at this point, but I did go through a struggle. But thank you for the validation. I appreciate that.
No, for sure. I mean, I just it
how
resonates.
Have you managed? I don't know. I know you're the interviewer here, but how have you managed with that from early episodes yourself? Were you being misgendered in those, and what was your experience like?
No, I mean, it's my show, so I can't get misgendered. I edit the show, and also I can't get misgendered because I'm interviewing only trans people, and it would be absolutely buck wild if I invited a trans guest onto the show and then they misgendered me. Not that I've never been misgendered by a trans person, but it would just be wild. Nope, you know what? That's wrong. I was misgendered by a guest one time, and I kept it in because people can choose their own adventure with that. But for me, it's like my old name is in there and my old voice is in there. And so if you listen to anything before like the middle of season 6, you're going to hear old name, old voice, which is totally fine. You're also just going to hear worse audio quality because I didn't know what I was doing. You're also just going to hear like a less interesting show because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I think that those things are all tied up together. It's not like no one can know the name that I used for the first 6 seasons of the podcast. Like that's pretty unavoidable.
Sure.
It's more just that like they're not as good as episodes. And I think that almost bothers me more than the gender is like, they're just not my best work. But if you're going to spelunk into old episodes, you're going to find just a different person who hadn't gone through like 4 years of learning on this specific podcast about gender. And I think that, like you said, it like the journey, both the gender journey and the just podcasting journey and the way that I think about gender as a concept rather than like my gender has changed, but also like the way that I think about gender has changed really dramatically. And so actually, I'll just tell this secret because why not? For episode 101 of our podcast, we're redoing episode 1 of our podcast, which is Gender 101, which was a hard sentence to follow. But basically, the first episode we ever did was explaining some 101 concepts for cis people and anyone else so that we could never explain them again. And it's been 4 years since I made that episode, and
that's genius.
I would do it differently. And so, yeah, just like kind of updating that to be like, because of course, like the first episode of your show is going to be the most downloaded. And so if that's going to be the most downloaded because people insist on starting there, then I want to at least be like, but at least this is how I think about it now. And like, you know, I went back and listened and it was less incorrect. It was less outdated than I thought it would be, but it's still, there's enough in there that I'm just like, you know, so.
That's, I mean, genius idea. That's so smart. I also think that it's almost pretty wonderful that you had all those years before you really got to where you are in terms of yourself. I think that's great that I guess it's the same thing on my show, but I feel like yours is probably more obvious that there's this gradual experience you're going through, and all of a sudden you're able to almost come out on your own show in some way, and just at least be more of yourself with your voice. You said your voice has changed, your name changed. Those are some really critical things that you got on audio. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever not myself, but I definitely like have documented that changing. And I think it is funny, like if you make a podcast because you are listening to your voice every week. And so I can like make a mashup of like voice changing over time or whatever, which is fun. Because most people have to do like a YouTube video where they go, this is my voice one day on T. Or sorry, it would be like, this is my voice one day on T. This is my voice on T. This is my voice 3 months on T. This is my voice a year on T. And I just have the audio of me saying like, welcome to Gender Reveal over and over again. And I can just kind of loop that. So that's fun. But yeah, I think that the reason that it was really easy to change my name on the show or to like whatever else change, like have my voice change phonically on the show is that I know that my audience is mostly trans people. And so if I was making a show that was about something totally different, I would be a lot more stressed out. But because my show is literally about like gender, there was never like a question in my mind that people weren't going to immediately like adopt this new name for me and sort of forget the old one. And like, that's exactly what happened. And I think it's been, just like really, really amazing to see that happen. And I feel really lucky to be in a position where it was that easy. So yeah, it feels really nice.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, it's been good. Okay, I have a non-gender question for you.
Okay.
What's up with Clown College? Just tell me everything.
Is
that a gender? Is clown gender?
I don't identify it with it anymore, so I'm not sure about that. So basically I didn't want to do sports in middle school, and my mom said I had to go do something, and so I joked about Clown College, and then I think she took me seriously, and she was like, well, if that's something you want to do to get out of the house, let's, go to Clown College. And why would I think in like rural Virginia, there'd be a clown college I could attend, but apparently there is one. And it was a year-long program, and your graduation is your first circus or your first clown show, I guess. And you get, and your final graduation trinket is you get pied in the face. So that's, and it was on my 14th birthday. I turned 14 the day that I graduated. So that was my day.
Amazing. Did you tell people that you graduated from college when you were 14 and just omit the clown, and you were just like,
I should have. I told nobody, actually. It leaked because I think probably one of my friends knew, or two of my friends knew about it, or my mom was just telling everybody that she was going to Clown College. And it followed me for the rest of my life, as you can see in this exact moment. I told, so in the podcast, me and my co-host, we didn't really know each other very well when we first started. And so one of the beauties of the show is that you can see us learning about each other in real time. And we told her about clown college, and everyone refused to let it go. So I learned to love my clown self all over again. So that's been nice. I kept it in hiding for many, many years just because it was embarrassing. I can't believe I was a 14-year-old and in the world of like popular kids. I was like just walking around going to clown college.
I mean, I think that the fact that you were 14 or like 13 for most of it, like makes it make more sense though. Like what if you were like 28 and you were like, I'm going to clown college and I'm graduating on my 29th birthday? Like that would be way weirder. So I feel like it's endearing for a kid.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am going to take it because I one of my prized possessions, I still have my clown nose on my shelf. So it's like my very first trophy. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I was listening to the Food for Thought podcast, which I love, and they were talking about their first meaningful experiences with Pride as an event. So I'm curious if you have participated in Pride events in the past beyond this digital Pride experience, and if so, like if you have any sort of like meaningful moments where you sort of like had your first Pride TM.
I did. I've been to Pride in LA and I went to Pride in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It was a couple years ago, but no, I was always nervous about going to Pride, not for any reason that had anything to do with Pride. It was just crowds. I'm just nervous about crowds. Mm-hmm. And when my first Pride that I went to, I think I had addressed that to somebody in my group, and we found a bunch of the people that are parents, and they say like, hug your dad, or I'll hug you if your dad doesn't accept you. Someone went up to one of those people and said that I was really nervous because of the crowds, and he like rallied together all of the parents of like that were there to advocate for queer people, and they all gave me a big group hug together. So it was weird that it was actually a bunch of straight allies at Pride that are my meaningful moment, but it was really wonderful to just be nervous, but also in my element and having so many people around me. And they ended up being part of our group for the whole day. So that's my big memory, is just being surrounded by a bunch of moms and dads at my first Pride. So
that's cute.
Yeah. What about you?
No, I don't really go.
Not your vibe? Not your scene?
I mean, I've gone to Transmarch a couple of times. I don't know. I mean, I live in Portland, so it's like, it's Pride every day, baby. Sure. I've gone to like events during Pride. I've been to New York Pride a couple of times. I'm going to be there again, like when this is airing. And yeah, I mean, like, I think there's something really special about like, there was one time when I like got off the subway to get ice cream and I realized that I was like standing outside Stonewall during Pride. And like, I think that like always feels really significant to me. And just thinking about like what that would have looked like 50 years ago and like what that looks like now, like I think feels really significant to me. And so, yeah, like that has been really amazing. But I think for me, like, because I am queer and trans every day, Pride feels more of an exercise in like corporations and branding in Portland specifically. And I think that's why it's like fun to find those moments, right? Where you're like, oh, this is like what Pride actually means to me, which is like, getting hugged by a bunch of straight allies, but like feeling really cared for because like I didn't have the best experience coming out to my parents and now these parents are hugging me and I feel good. Or like, standing outside and like thinking about history or whatever. Like, I think that like Pride can be what you make it.
Sure.
And so I'm just interested in like what everyone's sort of formulative Pride experiences are, beyond obviously this event, which is going to be everyone's favorite Pride event they've ever experienced. They're going to be like, I watched a 45-minute video and I'm more trans now. Cool. Well, we are coming up close to time. Is there anything else you want to talk about today that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I kind of want to ask you kind of off of that question.
Sure.
What is the time is there a time that you, I don't know if this, I don't want to use the phrasing of where you finally felt like yourself, but the first time you really felt true self-love after everything you've gone through?
Oh gosh, I don't feel like that. I don't know. I don't feel like I was like, closeted and then I was not closeted. I think I just have existed as various revisions of myself across time and space. Like I've changed my name twice. I have identity documents in every gender marker you can possibly have. My, sexuality has changed. The way that I use, like the words that I use to describe myself changed. Like when I was first coming out talking about gender, like I would say something like, I'm genderqueer, I'm non-binary, but like I would use words like woman aligned. And then I was like, okay, I actually don't identify as masculine or feminine. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm transmasculine. And then, I'm friends with a bunch of transsexuals and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm also going to use the word transsexual because that's fun. Regarding like gender or sexuality, like I use basic words that I like probably am not allowed to say on this family-friendly podcast to describe my sexual orientation. And so I think just like growing into those communities has been meaningful to me, but there wasn't like a moment where I was not myself and then like burst into the scene. Not to say that I've never like not disclosed that I was trans. There was like a whole year at work where I just like didn't deal with it. But I don't think there was like a moment that was like there was a shining star in the sky. I think it's like an evolutionary process where I'm on draft like 150 of like what this project is, and like all my cells are different and my name is different and my gender is different and my sexual orientation is different. And yet somehow I'm like supposed to be the same person. And it's like the ship of Theseus situation where you're like, if you replace every single component part individually, is it still the same person? Does self exist? I don't know, but here I am. So maybe,
What is the thing that makes you, is there a thing that makes you most euphoric about yourself? And in this draft alone?
No, I mean, I'm just feeling good. I think that I am like giving myself more space to sort of confront what I was talking about at the beginning, which is like internalized feelings of like, if I stray too far from my gender assigned at birth towards like something that is more boy or is more masculine or is more man or is more whatever, is that something that I feel like I am not doing because it's not my gender, or is that something I'm not doing because that's something that I like need to interrogate more within myself? And so like a lot of what I was talking about with you is because it resonates with me and with a lot of people I know about sort of confronting like, oh, the desires that I have as a trans person or the desires that I have as a queer person, I have been taught my entire life are inherently shameful because of queer and transphobia. And if I remove the inherent shamefulness of desiring something beyond what I have previously had, is that selfish of me? Is that like demonic of me? Is that like terrible of me? Or is that just like a way to be a person in the world? And so I think just like giving myself increased space to continually unlearn those beliefs and continually relearn that like there is space for pleasure and joy in this world beyond what we were assigned. Even every time I think I know that, it turns out I still don't know that, and I still have to be told that again. And so I think just like continually giving yourself space to do what you want for yourself is like the most important thing that I continue to try to do every day with like various degrees of success.
That's awesome. I mean, well, and also thank you for, it feels nice to talk one-on-one with somebody and kind of, I mean, I know our stories are a little different, but it's nice to know that I'm not the only person trying to unlearn the shame of what it means to have a little bit of everything and embrace it. And it's nice. I usually don't get a chance to talk to people walking kind of on the same journey. So thank you for educating me, by the way, because I'm still in learning mode. So
yeah, I mean, there's literally like hundreds and thousands. So speaking of which, I'm going to do the plugs at the end of every episode, and then I'm going to ask you the last question. So thank you for everyone to joining us on this show. Actually, will you tell folks where they can find you on the internet first?
Yeah, I'm at the Em Schulz as my personal, but then you can also find my podcast at and that's why we drink.com, and our social media is ATWWD podcast.
Perfect. We are at genderpodcast.com, where you can find transcripts of every episode, as well as a bunch of other resources. We have starter packs for folks who haven't listened to the show before, where some of our favorite episodes are separated by interest. We are on Twitter and Instagram at GenderVeal. I am on Twitter at Tuck Woodstock and on Instagram at Tuck Woodstock Jr. And what else? We have merch, new merch every month. The way our merch program works is that we have a store where all of the designs are submitted by trans people, and at the end of every month we take the proceeds and split it between the trans artist and an organization of the trans person's choice. So that could be like Trans Lifeline, Trans Law Center, Okra, Project Glitz, stuff like that. We have some good stuff for June, including stuff that says More Kink at Pride, which is maybe not appropriate if you're a child listening, but I like it personally. And what else? Yeah, that's a lot of it. And I just want to really encourage everyone to listen to Em's show, which is delightful, and also Gender Reveal if you want to have more conversations about what the hell gender is. And if you are looking for community, like maybe Em is, about talking about gender, we have a Slack community at bit.ly/gender/Slack2, where it's just a bunch of trans people and some allies, or maybe trans people who are just chilling and supporting each other in being trans and learning more about themselves. And it's a space to try out new names, to try out new pronouns, and just talk about what you're going through. And so if anyone feels like that would be good for them, any age, you are welcome to be there. Okay, the way we always end the show is by asking, in your ideal world, what would the future of gender look like?
Oh man, I think it would be, as Bill Nye said, a kaleidoscope. It already is, but I think I would want more people to embrace it. That everyone is a little bit different and everyone's a little bit the same in that way. So I think that's really perfect. That I would like to think that gender is either you completely know who you are, you don't know who you completely are, but no matter what stage you're in, or if that's your fixed position, you're just happy. And I think in a world with no gender, there would just be acceptance.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show as this special live recording for the It Gets Better Digital Pride experience. And yeah, have a good rest of your Pride Month.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy Pride to everybody.
I want a mood board to convey struggles and words and affirmations and things that bring me strength and that make me feel strong.
I wanted to show that it can be sometimes really hard when you feel like no one likes you, but don't give up and keep fighting and you will be better one day.
It symbolizes the growth, me being the butterfly, that now I can spread my wings.
Me pierdo en ellas, lo cual me sucede en mis ideas o pensamientos. Y es ahí cuando yo siento que el mural soy yo y yo soy el mural.
I wanted to go back to where my queer awakening had started, and so I thought of the beautiful imagery that fireworks creates.
On the end of it, it's the flowers, it's the sun, and coming from a dark time like I was in, it's infinitely better than where I was, and I honestly never thought I would be here.
That's what our community is. The journey to self-discovery is one that is messy and uncomfortable. But eventually things get better, and eventually one can be proud.
everybody. I'm Ebony, the Director of Brand Marketing, Content, and Creative at the It Gets Better Project. And I'm really excited to be joined by Courtney Ryan, a first-time Paralympian who you will see in our Passion Power performance series coming up soon. Hi, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Digital Pride experience.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I had a chance to watch the full episodes of the Passion Power performance series about athletes who are of the community preparing for the Tokyo Olympics. And your episode in particular stood out to me. Just the physicality and amount of contact in wheelchair basketball is tremendous. So how do you normally prepare for a competition? Do you have a game day or a daily ritual that kind of puts you in the right frame of mind?
Yeah, as far as Team USA and how we prepare for the Paralympics for Tokyo, we have a lot of training camps prior to the event, obviously. So we are training at least 5 to 10 days in Colorado Springs. And I'm a big music person, so that really helps me get into that character, so to speak, and get ready to play regardless if it's a game or just practice. So I pop on my headphones, listen to some jams, and I'm ready to go.
What's your go-to?
My go-to? Oh, it changes all the time though, so it's so hard to say. But I'll go back to my 90s, early 2000s jams of Missy Elliott. That's my thing, you know.
Okay. I got you. Awesome. I also read that you are a co-founder of a women's wheelchair basketball team. There's always been a level of importance to be able to build community, especially for women, people of color, the LGBTQ plus community, people with disabilities. How important was it for you to create a team like this?
Well, California is such a big state to begin with. And when I initially moved to Los Angeles after I graduated from University of Arizona, I was surprised to find out that there wasn't any women's teams competing in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. And we had such a large community of, athletic, empowering women that wanted to compete. They just didn't have the opportunities. So I took it upon myself with our other co-founder and found out that there was a lot of former Paralympians and current Paralympians that lived in Los Angeles and San Diego and the Southern California community. And so we just kind of took it upon ourselves and started the Team Possibilities Shield Maidens. So I'm really into Viking studies, so that's kind of where the Shield Maidens came into play. So it was, and as far as community, I think it's a really important factor for me because when I was first sustained my disability in 2010, I was very depressed and lost. And then I found the sport of wheelchair basketball, and that community really helped uplift me and understand you can still be empowering, you can still be independent, and you can still compete at the highest level regardless of your disability. So it was a really great thing for me to meet all these really incredible women that have, seen similar situations and have, we can relate on similar things as far as living with a disability and being able to compete. So it was really empowering moment for me to find this community.
Totally. And how long has Shield Maidens been around?
Shield Maidens started in 2014. Yeah.
Awesome. I love speaking and kind of connecting with people who occupy many lines of intersectionality, right? I identify personally as a Black queer woman, and I know you are a female athlete who is part of the LGBTQ plus community and who happens to have a disability. Talk to me about living across intersectional lines, and if there are times where you feel that you faced more adversity depending on those identities.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I do identify as a lesbian, a disabled woman, an adaptive athlete. I have a lot of characters, a lot of ways that I identify. And, I do have to deal with adversity on a daily basis, specifically living with a disability, because there are a lot of stereotypes that come with it and a lot of stares, a lot of comments that you just kind of have to live with, and not only combat those stereotypes, but also be a knowledgeable person to educate the community and the world to showcase what disability is and to kind of dismantle a lot of the things that are put upon. As far as LGBT community, there are adversity moments, but I would definitely say that I deal with more adversity as far as living with a disability. But it's frustrating sometimes that people tend to see the wheelchair and not the person, and they feel like, oh, they probably don't date, they probably don't do a lot of these other things. And so that's something that's really frustrating, that I can identify as a person with a disability, but that my orientation or my sexuality or my love life kind of gets pushed aside because they feel that it's impossible. You couldn't be a person that's in the community dating in this world. So those are some of the adversity things that you have to deal with on a daily, but it's definitely more so just living with a disability and combating those stereotypes.
Over time, do you feel like it's gotten better, or are you still kind of educating people along the way?
No, I think it's gotten a lot better, especially with the Paralympic movement. That we're getting a lot more support from bigger brands and businesses, and you see a lot more commercials, and just a lot more support for the Paralympic movement, which is incredible to see. And as far as identifying as like a lesbian, I get the opportunity to be out and proud on one of the biggest stages sports has ever seen, and people are proud of me, and there's nothing, and it's not like a strange concept anymore. And you definitely have to give a shout out to those former, LGBT athletes that have paved the way for us to be out and proud during these big events and being able to use the stage to showcase our support and our love.
Totally. Well, speaking of that, I know you are training for the Olympics in July. How are you just dealing with the pressures of training and competing on that big stage?
A lot of meditation, a lot of that. And it's the biggest thing is just you're training so much, and it's important to still find time for yourself and to do things outside of the sport that you love, just to kind of find like a balance point. And it is a very stressful time. We are training constantly and getting together as much as we can. And I think the biggest hurdle was COVID. And so like now the fact that things are starting to move forward and we're able to train as a team again, because it had been like 13 and a half months after the announcement that the games were going to be postponed, that we weren't able to train together. And I think that was the biggest hurdle that anybody has had to go through in this point. So I think now that has kind of settled down, it's still around obviously, but it's settled down a bit. There's just a lot of excitement, and to be able to get together and train together has been such an honor and just an emotional experience in a way.
Yeah, I'm sure. What would little Courtney Ryan say if she saw her adult self made it as a Paralympian? Like what would she say?
She would say, you made it. It's time to go. It's time to train. Let's have some fun. I think that's just the biggest thing is like you made it. And yeah, you had goals and dreams of being a part of the Team USA soccer national team before your injury. Obviously, life turned a little bit in a different direction, but obviously in a great direction. And I think she would just be so proud at like you've had to deal with so much throughout the past 10 years, and your journey is right in front of you, and you've made the biggest stage, and you're competing at the top level, and you're an elite athlete. So congrats to yourself, and go get that gold.
Yes, I love that. What would you say has been the most rewarding part about being out, especially in your professional career?
The most rewarding part about being a part of Team USA is just being able to wear those 3 letters across your chest is like what first and foremost. I think as an athlete growing up, there's a lot of people that dream to be at this elite level and compete in the Olympic or Paralympic movement. And the fact that I am one of the rare few that gets that opportunity is a very, very humbling experience, and just so much pride comes with it, being able to wear that. And I think that's probably the biggest and the biggest moment of my life as far as my career. Not only that, but like outside of sport is just being an advocate and being able to showcase not only the differences and like breaking down barriers for disability, but also breaking down barriers for women athletes.
Absolutely. Before we premiere the episode, I'd love to just get your lasting message to the LGBTQ plus youth community, just as someone who is comfortable in her skin and fully recognized in her identity. What's your lasting message to them?
I would say to them that I am here and I support you through your journey, most importantly, and always be uniquely you. And there's always going to be some people that don't accept you, but you will find your community and you will find power in that community. So reach out to people that know and love you, and you're going to be great. And like you guys always say, it does get better.
Yes, come on, plug.
Put that in.
Yes, I see what you did there. Courtney, it's been an honor to have you with us. I look forward to seeing more of you, and I wish you the best this year in competition. Courtney is one of the 4 athletes we spent time with over the last year as they prepare to compete in Tokyo. And now, take a look at our series, Passion, Power, Performance.
Sports has been in my life pretty much since birth. I grew up playing soccer. I started at the age of 4. I was able to take my first steps onto a soccer field, and I took my last steps onto a soccer field. I got recruited to play soccer at Metro State College of Denver back in 2008. And I was a starter my freshman year. I ended up getting first team All-American my sophomore year. And we had a game one night, and I woke up that morning and my legs had felt numb and tingly. But I figured, we just finished 2-a-days. I'm probably just a little bit fatigued. And I was running for the ball, and then all of a sudden it just felt like this excruciating pain in my back. It felt like what I would assume like getting stabbed felt like. I fell onto the ground, and when I got to the hospital, they ran tests and I did an MRI, and that's when I found out that I had a blood clot burst in my spinal cord, which caused me to become paralyzed from the belly button down, and I was considered a paraplegic at the level of T8, T9. So my sister Caitlin was a huge influencer in my life and really great support system, even to the day when I came out of the closet with her. I remember this day very vividly. I had just gotten home from school, and she ended up handing me a letter. And I opened it up and I started reading it, and instantly, before I even got all the way through it, I was like, wait, my sister's a lesbian too. She's coming out to me before I even have to say anything. This is crazy, this is incredible. And I started tearing up because of pure just joy and excitement. But I remember once I started crying, she looked at me and started getting really nervous because she thought, oh, these are tears of like disappointment, like what's going on? And then I turned to her and we locked eyes, and I was like, I'm gay too. At the time of my injury, my sister was living in Washington, D.C., and she had a full-time job and was doing really well for herself. Once I completed my rehab stay, that's when she realized that I still needed some more help, and she actually quit her job in D.C., moved to Denver, and helped me. And the fact that she was so willing to do that was, I guess in a way, like such a humbling experience to see how much love and support I had from her. I remember my first practice, my sister was gonna join me because I was nervous, I didn't know what to expect. And I remember telling my sister, like, it's wheelchair basketball, like this is gonna be ridiculous, I don't even wanna do this. We got there and I remember rolling into the gym, and the first thing I see is somebody just get flipped out of their wheelchair and fall to the ground. And then instantly I look at my sister and she looks at me and she's like, this is for you. This is totally for you. And I was like, you're right, I need this in my life. And I got my first wheelchair basketball chair, and that was it for me. That was it, game over. My identity of an athlete had arrived.
And with wheelchair basketball, you know, people see disability and they think, oh, she's so fragile. The poor thing, look at her push her chair, she's such an inspiration. So it's really frustrating that I have such a strong, like, relationship with being a lesbian and being proud, but it's sometimes kind of hidden because of the disability and pushed aside, even though I want that to be out. I want to be proud. But it's so hard when everybody just sees the chair. Yes, I am disabled. Yes, I am a lesbian, but I can still compete and be successful in society regardless of what other people have thought in regards to LGBT community. I want to be an inspiration because you see me on the court doing some crazy tricks and tilting in a chair, doing all this stuff that you wouldn't expect. That's what I love about wheelchair basketball, is we get the opportunity to change perceptions and change ideas of what disability should look like. We aren't fragile. We are competitors, and we're ready to prove that.
When I was growing up, I wanted to be in the Olympic Games, but I don't think back then I truly believed that I could. Being a black swimmer, and you know, I felt even more segregated knowing that I was battling all these feelings inside about my sexuality. And you know, it wasn't until later on in life where I made my first British team and I decided to change with Jamaica that I truly believed it. It gives me goosebumps now even thinking about it. When I was growing up, I did know I was very different. I was always very outgoing and happy, and I remember when I used to wake up at 5 a.m. and I used to wake my dad up and he was still a zombie waking up trying to get out of bed, but I was just itching to get in the pool. I feel confident, I feel just amazing in the water. You know, a few people called me names, and to this day I don't really know whether it was because of the colour of my skin, whether it was my sexuality, or whether I just didn't fit in. One of the hardest things for me was, you know, when I was physically bullied. In science, I got acid thrown at me, and you know, my blazer went all a different colour, and I remember going home and being so ashamed to show my mum. I think I left it a couple of days and realised that actually I can be open and honest with my mum, and you know, I told her the true story, and I remember her marching up into the school to see the headmistress and just having my back. You know, the biggest fear for me is the unknown. You know, I like to plan and I like to know what's happening and I like to just be in control. And I knew that obviously coming out to my parents, I wasn't in control. I didn't know how they was going to react, and I just didn't want to disappoint anyone. And I think that was my biggest fear. I was having a really deep conversation with my mum. I think it was just after Christmas. And she was asking about my future and my plans for swimming, and I think she brought up kids. And for me, I really saw that as the perfect time to just open up to her and obviously tell her about my feelings. I think she was so surprised at first. She just didn't really know how to process it. She didn't expect it, but actually she was really lovely and she was really accepting, and it just felt like a massive relief off my shoulders once I told her. With all the laws out in Jamaica, I knew that it was going to be a tough and challenging kind of bridge to cross with my sexuality. Jamaica specifically, people are scared to come out. People don't want to be put in prison, or there's so many laws about sexuality. I've received so many lovely messages from people saying that, you know, they are gay or lesbian or whatever sexuality. I'm so lucky with how I told my mum and my family and how everyone was so accepting. But I think I know that there are challenges out there in the world. I think for me, all I can do is try and give love and message them back and just try and keep them positive. I think it's got a lot better. I'm proud to be who I am. I'm proud to be gay, black, and obviously having represented two nations, I'm extremely lucky and I do know that. But I think for me as well, I want to be that positive role model. I want to be that beacon of light for people. As a black gay swimmer, I do think it's so important for me to talk out because, you know, black lives do matter. I've been very lucky where I can be open and I can be honest, but so many people don't get that chance and we have to fight for them.
When I'm on my bike, nothing else exists. In 2016, when they first announced the addition of the sport to the games and that there would be equal opportunities for women and then of course equal opportunities for trans athletes, that I came to consider this might be something I can do with my life. Olympians, to me growing up, were basically superheroes. The Olympics are regarded as the highest possible level that you can ever achieve in sporting. I respected the dedication that it took to get to that level, no matter the sport you're in. Some of the resistance that I've gotten has ranged from all of the minor microaggressions that you face as a trans person, of like misgendering, dead naming, refusing to acknowledge that you deserve equal human rights, all the way up to death threats and threats of violence. I felt like my world was going to be so limited because I was trans. I didn't think that I would be accepted at all. I tried to keep myself as small as possible. I didn't want people knowing that I existed. I tried to keep to myself, and I didn't think that I deserved to have a place in the world, and I didn't expect that I would have one. So I had to make the decision of, do I go the easy route and live as stealth, or do I decide to become the person that I needed when I was younger? So somebody else who's dealing with the same struggle doesn't have to struggle so much because they see that there is a path in the world for them. For the most part, a lot of BMX riders are extremely open and supportive to anyone that wants to get involved. So a lot of my friends and support to this day comes from the BMX world. It's kind of a sport for outcasts. Like, you didn't really fit in with the swim team, or you didn't have it cut out for football or baseball. I got plagued by the thoughts of, but it's not possible for you though, not as a trans girl. You'll never be accepted by the other riders, by sponsors. No company is going to want you to be the public face of their brand. These opportunities are just not going to exist for you. And it wasn't a very far leap from there for my brain to go if you're giving up all the things that has ever brought you happiness in your life, you might as well just kill yourself. I was pushing myself in ways that I really shouldn't have been, and it led to a string of accidents and injuries. And there was one, the injury itself wasn't bad, but it shook me. After this crash, my friend Tasha noticed that the emotions that she saw coming from me were a lot stronger than what really should have been brought up by the crash. And she followed me and just told me, spill. She wouldn't let me leave until I told her what was going on. And that was honestly one of the first times in my life that I ever felt like I deserved to tell someone how I felt. Now to have my life unfold in that I have many wonderful friends who support me fully and will stand up for me when needed and cheer for me when I succeed. It's incredible. I get messages of support all the time of people saying that what I'm doing made them realize that they can do anything they set their mind to, and they shouldn't be held back by whatever their identity or who they are is. Every time I get one of those messages, it really heals the wounds that were inflicted by not believing I had a place in the world growing up. I needed an inspiration like that when I was younger, and that person didn't exist yet. So getting to be that person now means the world to me.
A lot of people look at me like, aren't you too small to play rugby?
feel a bit transformed. It's like I'm no longer Izzy who likes to make breakfast for her wife and play with the cats and everything. It's Izzy and I can turn into an animal, and that's what rugby lets you do. Yeah, I remember elementary school, middle school, like wanting to spend more time with some girls, and not just because we were friends. Like that's something like that happened that you're just like, oh, I get butterflies, and you're like, oh no, she's my best friend. And then she starts to date a boy and you cry. And then why are you crying? I remember I started to like have really depressive symptoms. Like I would sleep for 14 hours a day, which was not healthy. And I think that was something that kind of colored also like my first 2 years of college. That also coincided with meeting my first girlfriend. And for a couple months, like she would not go out with me because she was like, you're a mess, no. And that was a little bit, I was like, oh, hey now, I have to get my shit together. I don't have anything to hold back. When I get out on the pitch, I don't have to worry if something slips or if there's a crack in the facade. And the more secure I feel in myself, the better I play. My two parents are Brazilian. For me, it's a lucky thing to have dual citizenship and having these like two identities, I guess. Marjorie and I met through my whole process to come to Brazil for a test period with the national team. She was team manager at the time. I was like seeing the physio after one of our practices, and she was reading a book, and I just like tried to start a conversation. I was like, oh, do you like books? Man, I'm the worst flirt ever. I found that I love myself more, and I'm proud of who I am, and that we can also find new ways to love each other. That's a learning process as well. And it's not to say I wasn't happy for moments in high school or college, but there's a Brazilian poet who says that you can make happiness routine. And that's the sort of thing that Marjorie and I are after, that we can be happy in the smallest ways and in everyday ways. At the 2016 Olympics, it was an important moment because my Olympic dream had come true, but Marjorie's as well, because she was part of the organizing committee. It had been a long day. I'd already competed in my last game earlier that day and like watched the rest of the matches and then the medal ceremony, and we went out onto the empty pitch and she started talking, but suddenly like my team had moved to the side and I was standing alone. But I was like, oh, what's happening now? And then I just heard her say, and I have an important question for someone. And I was crying. I was crying, and I was like, oh, yes, I already know. And she was saying more things, and I was like, just hand me the mic. I already know what I'm gonna say. And then it took a while, like, to understand the impact of that. Like people finding us on Facebook and just sending us messages and be like, thanks for doing that. Like I felt so represented for the first time at the Olympic Games. I realized that if I had seen that growing up, what a world of difference it would have made for me.
Oh, hey! As you may have heard, the applications for the It Gets Better Youth Voices program are now open.
Here's why you should also apply. So, what's It Gets Better Project Youth Voices, you may ask? It's a group that advocates for queer youth, and it's run by, well, queer youth. My favorite part about being a youth voice is being able to represent my community to a global audience.
My other favorite thing has been making panels, which you can find on the It Gets Better YouTube page.
I never thought that I'd be presenting to thousands of educators at South by Southwest EDU.
Being a part of this program was probably one of the best things to ever happen to me. I need someone to hand over my torch to. Do you want the opportunity to meet a bunch of queer youth while also changing the world for the better? Then you should apply.
The application is in our bio.
Don't everybody rush to apply at the same time, but if you do, the link is in the bio.
vives la experiencia digital de It Gets Better Project. Mi nombre es Alex Orue, soy el coordinador del programa global de It Gets Better y estoy muy orgulloso de que el día de hoy tenga yo la oportunidad de entrevistar a una de las superestrellas latinas del momento y por supuesto ya un ícono queer en nuestra región, Pablo Vittar.
Hola, hola, ¿cómo están? Estoy muy agradecida de estar aquí hoy. Gracias, mi amor.
Gracias a ti por venir y por ser parte de esta experiencia. Primero que nada, ¿cómo estás hoy?
Hoy estoy buenísima, estoy guapísima, estoy muy bien. Espero que todos estén como yo también. Los mando muchísimos besos.
Te ves fabulosa. Y, oye, tú sabes que para It Gets Better lo importante es nuestras historias, que eso ayuda a inspirar esperanza en jóvenes LGBTQ+. Pero vayamos un poquito para explorar la tuya, vayamos a esa etapa de Pablo bebé. ¿Puedes contarnos cómo fue para ti crecer?
Sí, claro, para mí crecer fue muy buenísimo porque desde chiquito siempre tuve todo apoyo de mi mamá, de mi familia, de mis amigos. Yo sé que en Brasil, en el resto del globo, no es como todo, ni todos tienen el apoyo de su familia. Y para mí es muchísimo importante, fue muchísimo importante para mi formación como persona, como artista. Yo digo que fue fundamental.
Mira, que el apoyo de la familia es súper importante y qué padre que lo tuviste. Cuando eras infante, ¿hubo algún momento en el cual te sintieras diferente del resto? ¿Cómo fue ese momento para ti?
Siempre ya sabía que era diferente de los demás, de mi colegio, de mi barrio, de mi ciudad. Entonces, cuando me deparé que ya sabía que iba que ser muy fuerte para crecer en un lugar donde tiene mucho preconceito como Brasil, más una vez vuelvo a decir que mi mamá tiene un papel fundamental porque cuando eres chiquito tienes que tirar fuerza, tienes que tirar ganas de algo para enfrentar tus sueños y vivir. Y yo agradezco muchísimo a mi mamá que siempre me amó muchísimo y me dio fuerzas porque en colegio yo siempre pasé por momentos difíciles como bullying, pero yo estoy aquí hoy muy fuerte, muy contenta e inspirando a otros chiquitos.
Definitivamente lo haces con tu música, con tu presencia, pero en esa etapa que ibas creciendo, ¿quién fue esa primera persona con la que saliste del closet y cómo fue su reacción?
Para quem foi a primeira pessoa que você saiu do armário para, tipo, qual foi a reação?
No tive, no existen, no tive, nunca precisé salir de armario porque dentro de mi casa ya no existía armario, ya no existían closet, no existía nada, porque desde chiquito mi mamá ya sabía que yo era diferente de los demás y siempre me apoyó y siempre me dio total libertad para expresar y hacer lo que quería hacer. Entonces yo no precisé sacarme de ningún closet, Muy bueno, ¿no?
Eso no tiene precio, totalmente. Y aunque al crecer con todo este apoyo, ¿hubo algún momento en el que te sintieras sola, en aislamiento? Y si así fue, ¿qué te hizo salir adelante?
Se em algum momento da vida você se sentiu isolada, sozinha, e o que você fez para seguir adiante?
Bueno, como todas las personas, siempre tenemos momentos donde precisamos estar más reservada, tienes días que no acordamos tan bien como los otros. Entonces, lo que siempre digo es que tenga su red de apoyo como sus amigos, su familia, para que realmente te dan energía, te dan fuerza para soportar los días difíciles. Nada más ahora que pasamos por esta pandemia, es muy importante, tenemos una red de comunicación, de apoyo, porque somos una familia, somos personas que nos respetamos y nos damos fuerza y cariño. So, yo tengo que agradecer a mi papá, a mi madre, a mis amigos, a personas como tú, que también dan voz a la comunidad. Y somos una grande red. Solo que digo para los chiquitos, tengan tu red.
Absolutamente, y eso es lo que buscamos incentivar en It Gets Better. Tenemos muchas filiales alrededor del mundo y totalmente hay que seguir haciendo comunidad, ¿no? Sí. Pregunta ya un poco más de recién, que como todo el mundo lo sabe, con el éxito que has tenido y continúas teniendo, ¿cómo ha sido para ti pues ser este icono queer actualmente? ¿Cómo has sentido este éxito con este tipo de visibilidad?
Es muy emocionante, me siento muy grata, muy abençoada. Yo soy una persona que soy muy feliz todos los días que acuerdo que veo cómo mi trabajo te ha influenciado la vida de otras personas, que de aquí 50 años, 60 años, cómo está haciendo nuestro trabajo también, llevando para frente nuestra voz. Me siento muchísima, ¿cómo puedo decir? Muy grata, porque no estoy sozinha. Aquí en Brasil tenemos otros nombres, tenemos otras voces que junto a mi voz nos unimos para una causa muchísimo mayor. Solo que me siento muy grata, muy agradecida.
¿Y qué ha sido lo más gratificante en este trayecto? O sea, ¿algún momento especial con tus fans? ¿Algún momento en tu carrera en particular? ¿Qué ha sido lo que te ha sido más gratificante a la fecha?
Más gratificante para mí es como cuando recibo mensajes de familias que están se uniendo cada vez más, papás de madres de crianças LGBTQ que están apoyando a sus hijos, amando como eleição. Eso me deja muchísimo contente porque yo crecí así con todo apoyo. Yo quiero que mis fanáticos también tengan apoyo de sus padres, de sus madres, que también tengan fuerza para gritar sus derechos, no que se esquezcan que pueden todo, porque no importa si eres A, si eres B, tienes que luchar, tienes que estar aquí fuerte y yo estoy aquí para lembrarlos que pueden, sí, todo mi amor.
Y, oye, ¿y cuál sería este consejo para jóvenes LGBT allá afuera que estén batallando con sus identidades? ¿Qué mensaje de esperanza les darías?
Que acrediten más ¿cómo que acrediten más en ustedes mismos?
Que crean más en
tú. Que crean más en tú mismo, porque sabemos que en esta generación de redes sociales tenemos mucho bullying virtual, muchas cosas que a veces te colocan para abajo, te tiran tu autoestima, tiran tu fuerza. No se dejen abalar por estos males. Acrediten en tus sueños, así como yo acredité en mi sueño, yo acredito muchísimo en todos mis fans, acredito que todos podemos hacer la diferencia. Es eso, no podemos nos calar.
Totalmente.
Nunca,
Oye,
never.
Y aparte, creo que como lo decías hace rato, hay muchas otras voces, ¿no? Latinas, queer, pero definitivamente tu voz es una de las más reconocidas actualmente en la región. Estás en un estatus más mainstream y pues sí, a veces hay como de esas pocas voces en ese nivel en donde estás tú, ¿no? ¿Qué se siente estar en esa plataforma y qué mensaje le darías a otras artistas latinas queer que estén pensando en salir del closet?
Primero, yo me siento muchísimo feliz de estar llevando mi trabajo, mi voz, mi música al mainstream, porque yo creo que inspira a muchísimos chiquitos, muchos jóvenes que también quieren seguir la carrera, que quieren hacer lo que quiera, que nunca desistan. Y para los artistas latinos que quieren seguir, salir de closet, estén preparados. No, ninguna persona salga de closet ahora, cuando estiver pronto salga. Por eso que es muy importante tenermos una red de apoyo, porque es un momento muy personal, es un momento muy, ¿cómo puedo decir? Íntimo, y tienes que tener una red que te apoya, que te ayuda, que te da fuerza, porque si no, amor, no es fácil.
Totalmente. Oye, una última pregunta de esta parte formal. No, tengo unas preguntas como para algunas preguntas divertidas que vamos a hacer en un momento para conocer un poquito más de ti, ¿no? Pero fíjate, tenemos una filial en Brasil. Existe It Gets Better Brasil. ¿Qué mensaje les darías a nuestros colegas de It Gets Better Brasil?
¿En português? Em português?
Em português.
Quero dizer para vocês, muito fácil, não? Quero dizer para vocês que estamos juntos, o que eu puder fazer para levar a mensagem de apoio, de força, de comunidade, eu estaria aqui sempre dando minha voz, dando minha garra, meu corpo, e falar para vocês que a gente está junto em mais um ano, em mais uma Pride, não só na Pride, mas o ano todo, mostrando que a gente pode fazer tudo se a gente se unir. Um beijo com vocês!
Perfecto. Oye, unas rápidas preguntas divertidas. Lo primero que se te venga a la mente. ¿Cuál es tu canción favorita de todos los tiempos?
Ahora es mi nuevo sencillo, Ama, Sofre, Chora, que lancé a pocos días. Está muy buenísimo, con un video increíble de Estoy de Novia. Está todo y todísimo.
Perfecto, ya es mi favorita también.
Gracias.
¿Qué es lo que siempre llevas contigo al salir de casa? Que nunca se te olvida.
Conditional, como lip gloss, lip balm.
Muy necesario.
Yo no puedo estar con labios secos, pero yo no soy cuando voy a echar mi príncipe, mi novio. You know.
Hay que estar listas, totalmente. Ok, ¿cuál es tu plataforma favorita de redes sociales y por qué?
Instagram, TikTok, porque es muy para criar. Me gusta crear cosas, crear conteúdo, crear videos, crear cosas que puedo dividir con mi público, que façam divertir mi público. Porque me gusta ser esa persona que te hace reír, que te hace danzar, que me gusta llevar felicidad, me gusta, pero Instagram y TikTok.
Perfecto. Oye, ¿y cuál es esa pregunta? Esto pensando en las muchas entrevistas que haces. ¿Cuál es esa pregunta que te cansa que te hagan? Que tú dirías, esto ya no me lo pregunten, por favor.
Tiene una pregunta que siempre me preguntan. Ahora no más. Nunca más me oyen. ¿Por qué tu nombre es Pablo?
Ok.
No nombre femenino como
claro.
las otras.
Sí.
Porque me gusta muchísimo mi nombre. Me gusta.
Muy bonito nombre, claro.
Sí.
Ok, oye, ¿qué es lo que haces que te pone de buen humor? Algo que en un momento que lo necesitas, de a lo mejor entre tanta agenda, tantas cosas que haces, que algo sencillo que tú hagas que te pone de buen humor.
Que eu faço pra ficar bem?
Alguma coisa que te faz estar com bom humor. Tipo assim, ai, um saco,
O
mas isso.
que hago para estar con buen humor es oír música. Me gusta muchísimo K-pop. Yo soy a K-pop fanat, girls. I'm obsessed with these girls. Yo escucho muchísimo K-pop. Hago todas las coreografías. Me gusta.
Totalmente te entiendo.
¿Te
Me
gusta
encanta.
K-pop?
También. ¿Quién es tu héroe, heroína queer? Alguien que admires.
Ahora con todas las palabras no está más entre nosotros, pero la Veneno, para mí es como una superheroína queer que viene con su capa roja y acaba con todo. Es un icon.
Totalmente, soy fan. ¿Cuál es tu memoria favorita del orgullo?
Mi primero concierto en la parada Pride de São Paulo, cuando empecé a hacer drag, fue mi primer concierto y siempre todos los años me recuerdo porque fue una emoción total. Fue cuando sentí por la primera vez que era lo que quería hacer de mi vida, era entretener, llevar esta voz y me siento muy orgullosa de poder hacer hasta hoy.
Súper, sí. De hecho, vi video de cuando te presentaste en el New York City Pride en 2019.
Amazing.
Con Grace Jones, fabulosa. ¿Y qué significa el orgullo para ti?
Orgullo para mí es ser quien yo soy sin miedo. Sin miedo de salir na rua, en calle, ¿o cómo?
En la calle.
Sin miedo de salir a la calle, con mis pelos, con mi maquillaje, sin miedo de perder mi vida, sin miedo de ser agredida o sin miedo, vivir sin miedo, tener orgullo y siempre digo que vivan sus vidas como los quiera, porque tenemos una apenas.
Absolutamente. Esas son todas mis preguntas. Las respondiste todas genial. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias, mi amor.
De verdad, feliz orgullo, mucho éxito, que continúes con tu éxito y gracias por ser parte de nuestra experiencia digital del Pride aquí en It Gets Better Project.
Muchas gracias, mando muchísimos besos y saludos a todos. Bueno, mes de Pride, orgúllense de quién son. Besos, los amo, los quiero muchísimo.
It became really central to me to understand this historical event and understand all the different contributors that went into it. And so I think this year with Pride, it's really important to remember how Pride is based off of the work and the activism of so many different communities, especially Black trans communities in the LGBTQ+ community. And so it's crucial to remember Pride was a riot. It was not only a parade, but it was protest and resistance. And I think this is something that's really exciting and motivating and empowering to go forward with, that it represents the perseverance of our community against struggle and the possibility for even more progress and change in the future. We continue with that fight. So happy Pride. It's an exciting time of resistance. It's an exciting time of celebration of how far we've come. And it's always an exciting time to both reflect and rejoice of what we've done.
What I'm grateful for is my community and that they're able to love and accept me for who I am, no matter how I choose to present myself. The way that the people that live around me are able to love me is something that is incredibly uplifting and something everybody should be able to experience at once in their life. Even the people that don't live around me, my allies that are always fighting for my rights, the people that let the anti-discriminatory laws against LGBTQ+ people being passed, the same-sex marriage laws being allowed, is something that is so breathtaking and really helps me realize just how lucky I am to be alive right now. These people are really helping pave the way for my LGBTQ+ siblings to make our way up there.
The most important thing to remember during Pride is
just be prideful, be proud of who you are, be proud of who you've become, and know that life is great. Be happy, and you know there's so many good things to look forward to, and you have just look around during Pride Month and see how much support you have and how much support everyone is kind of giving. It's just love. Oh, right here, love.
I think it's really important that we acknowledge the intersectionality of the LGBTQ plus movement and the origins of Pride. You know, Pride started as a protest against police brutality and injustice. And we cannot forget the thousands of Black and brown people within the movement that have been marginalized within the LGBTQ plus movement, and have worked so tirelessly to get us to where we are today, where you and I can be having this conversation right now.
It's Allie and AJ. Happy Pride Month.
We are so excited to be part of It Gets Better. We hope you enjoy our live performance, and we love you. Bye.
to an end. Don't need to bring us back from the dead. Maybe it just ran its course, and trying to hide only makes it worse. I feel
be playing songs for you from our new record called "A Touch the Beat Gets You Up on Your Feet, Gets You Out and Then Into the Sun." This is Break Yourself.
Might be the time for a change. You hit the ceiling, burning the candlelight. It's getting harder to tame. It's an impossible day. Might be the time for a change. Always concealing, hiding the parasite. It's getting harder to tame. Time for a change. You hit the ceiling, burning the candlelight. It's getting harder to tame. It's an impossible day. Might be the time for a change. Always concealing, hiding the parasite. It's getting harder to tame. The devil's got me running wild. Been wanting to break it for my heart. The devil's got me running wild. The devil's got me running wild. Been wanting to break it for my heart. The devil's got me running wild.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. We're going to kick it back to an old tune, a song that really has a soft spot in our hearts because it's from the first album. This is called Rush. This is for everyone out there who has felt like a misfit or an outcast or just someone that didn't quite fit in. But I'm really glad we wrote this song years ago because I think it's resonated with many people for a long time. So here's a little different version of it.
Into your head, into your mind, out of your soul, race through your veins. Into the dark, into your dreams, out of the dark, sunlight again. Into imagine everything you can. All the colors start to blend. Your system overloads again. You can go your own way. Go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. You can go your own way. Go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This song is called Slow Dancing and was the first single off our new record.
It's been days and weeks and months. Feels like forever since I saw you. I'm forgetting how you felt now. I've never had this much time on my hands. Move the kitchen table out to the lawn. Roll up the rug, the stereo's on. All I can imagine is being in your arms. I want you to know I don't need anything fancy. I just need me and you slow dancing. Hills bending, keeping me captive. Heaven's here, it's right where you're standing. So dancing. To complain, and they're tangled in red, white, and blue. The battle outside is blazing, and all I'm thinking about is you. Move the kitchen table out to the lawn. Roll up the rug, the stereo's on. All I can imagine is being in your arms. You to know I don't need anything fancy. I just need me and you slow dancing. Hills bending, keeping me captive. Heaven's here, it's right where you're standing. Slow dancing with you. All I'm thinking about All I'm thinking about is you. Running on bad ideas, like they're nothing. Racing through red lights, we're young, living on good feelings, high rollers. Wanted time to start, and it walk into the fields and walk through the water to find a place unlike our own. Push through the trees and pushed even farther. If we were right, how would we know? Would you say we made it to our paradise, paradise? Well, we know that it's paradise. Paradise, paradise. Well, we know that it's paradise. Trees in the night sky, like it's gone, like it's gone, like it's gone. Question star side, like they're wrong, they're all wrong. Cut through the fields and walk through the water to find a place unlike our own. Cut through the trees and pushed even farther. If we were right, how would we know? Would you say we made it to our paradise, paradise? Well, we know that it's paradise. Paradise, paradise. Well, we know that it's paradise. Went through the fields and walked through the water to find a place unlike our own. Paradise, paradise. Paradise, paradise. Paradise, paradise. But we know that it's paradise. We made it to our paradise, paradise. Well, we know that it's paradise. Every night gets worse. It's harder to control the urge. My blood rushes up and my judgment's on the way out. If you're asking me for closure, just know what'll happen if I come over. It's a symptom of your touch, symptom of your touch. If it feels so good, why does it hurt so much? Don't expect it to happen, we might lose my composure. It's a symptom of your touch, symptom of your touch. If it feels so good, why does it hurt so much?
I have to say it's pretty cool playing this album in a setting where we recorded it. Not many people can say that. And
Yeah.
we recorded this entire album front to back here in Los Angeles at the iconic Sunset Sound. And now we get to play a virtual performance for you guys. and
From that
introduce
very
you to
studio.
new tunes. Yeah. Also, Stairway to Heaven was recorded in this room.
So, no big deal, you know.
Big things have happened here. And a TikTok performance from Allie and Aja.
We'll get to that later in the set.
This is Joan of Arc on the dance floor.
Every night we walk the line. Every time we step out of the shadows, people pass by, always on to the next with a dead heart. Yeah, they're full of regret. They got sad eyes, empty promises. We don't need them. start the flames. Are you born in vain? If you die, you savior. People pass by, always on to the next with the dead heart. Yeah, they're full of regret. They got sad eyes, empty promises. Wait, don't stop until mascara's on the dance floor. We say no, Jonah Park is on the dance floor. Nights in armor hide under our liner. Lights are low, the night will take us higher, higher.
Nick Pulios on keys right here.
Wait, don't stop. We say no. Nights in armor hide under our liner. Lights are low, the night will take us higher, higher.
Thank you guys so much.
Bleeding sunset on a desert view. A sea of cocktails, but every drink is empty. Cold shoulders and bad perfume. Ring the bell, it's a cattle call. You self-park too. How did we end up on the edge of the infinity pool? I won't jump in without you. Let's leave this party right now. We never liked these people. Cowboys and hopeless crowns, spinning us all around, looking us up and down. They treat these lonely dance floors like personal cathedrals. Even diamonds here don't shine, spinning us all around, looking us up and down. I'm in my ends here, but I'm hanging on. All I can do is nod my head or play dead. Who's the fool celebrating who? Could this be any less cool? You laugh and say I love you. Let's leave this party right now. We never liked these people. Cowboys and hopeless crowns, spinning us all around, looking us up and down. They treat these lonely dance floors like personal cathedrals. Even diamonds
shows are allowed again. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight for this virtual show. We've had fun playing from Sunset Sound.
You know I never meant to be a burden to you. I never wanna cause you harm. I know what a heavy conversation does to you. I wish I never brought it up at all, but some days I need a rescue. Hey you, if you hear me calling. Hey you, if you see me falling. Will you catch me? Will you hold out your arms and catch me? Will you catch me? Do you think that you're strong enough? You always told me that these days would get better, but I'm afraid that you were wrong. 'Cause time never stops when you're hurting. Hey you, if you hear me calling. Hey you calling. Hey you, if you see me falling. Hey you falling. Will you catch me? Will you hold out your arms and catch me? Will you catch me? Will you hold out your arms and catch me? Do you think that you're strong enough? Hold out your arms and catch me. Do you think that you're strong enough? Hold out your arms and catch me. We hold out, we hold out. When the waves come crashing down, we can be the ones who pull each other out. When the waves come crashing down, we can be the ones who pull each other out. Catch me. Will you catch me? Hold out your arms and catch me. Will you catch me? Hold out your arms and catch me. Do you think that you're strong enough? Hold out your arms and catch me. We hold out, we hold out. We hold out, we hold out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Poulios on keys. We have Ben Zellico on drums. Connor Sullivan on lead guitar. We're Allie and AJ.
Touch too long, it took too long, it took too long for you to call back. Normally I would just forget that, except for the fact it was my birthday, my stupid fucking birthday. I played along, I played along, I played along, rolled right off my bed. Obviously my own was cut. What kind of boy that who would forget that? Type of guy who doesn't see what he has until she leaves. Don't